It's 6 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Pursuant to MGL 7C 38, Section 20F, after notifying the chair of the public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body and may transmit the meeting through any medium. Beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. This meeting is being recorded by the town of Great Barrington, Berkshire Edge, and CTSB. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. A listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Select board's announcements and statements. Phil.
Nothing, thank you.
Ben.
Just, it's on the agenda tonight, but just want to start getting the word out about the special town meeting. But we have to do everything we can to get the word out. Thank you for everyone who kind of gave us the opportunity to have this meeting, even though I don't think I'll be able to support the citizens petition. I'm really excited to have an opportunity to discuss where we are after the override and what we need to do to move forward. And I think this will be a great opportunity. So June 29th.
Yes. Garfield, you're over
We're over here.
Eric, I'll let you go next.
Yeah, I just wanted to plug a few things. One, June 13th, Party in the Park in Housatonic, rain or shine. Gonna have all the free kids events, live music, some food trucks, always a good time. I believe this will be our 4th year of it going off, so. And then also I wanted to do a plug for BEAT, Berkshire Environmental Action Team. Is asking all neighbors and fans of Old Maids Park to join them for a community dinner and a conversation about the future of the park. Thursday, June 18th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Unitarian Church on 1089 Main Street in Housatonic. Dinner will be provided, childcare will be available, and they're looking to hear everybody's ideas, memories, hopes for the space, and what they would like to see there going forward. Topics of discussion will be accessibility, ecological health, water quality, the dam, recreation, and long-term stewardship of the park. If you go to their site, there's registration or just show up. So it's very important, whether you're a neighbor or just a fan of the park, to show up to this meeting and give your thoughts, whether you want it to stay the same or you want to see it upgraded or left alone, or more accessibility, more picnic tables or less picnic tables. This is your opportunity to put in your 2 cents. Thank you.
Garfield, do you have anything?
Yes, the Relay for Life is coming up. It's on the 27th. Most of you probably know I'm a 2-time cancer survivor, so it's really pretty near and dear to me. So I will be checking out and passing the hat, so to speak, for some donations. It's a very worthy cause. We're at Monument Mountain again. It's indoors. It's June 27th. I believe it's 12 to 9. So if you couldn't get on up there, it's a great cause, and I will be looking to some of my colleagues for donations for the Relay for Life. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Town manager's report, please.
No report today.
Thank you very much. Next, we have a public hearing. Select board public hearing to act on the application for Joshua Tracy Irwin, Lisa Michelle Ake, and Emily Thompson to make changes to the ownership interest in Air Hospitality LLC as it relates to the all alcoholic beverages on premises liquor license held at 312 Main Street, Suite 1, Great Barrington, Mass, known as The Well. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, Phil.
Aye.
Ben.
I'm going to be recusing myself as my employer has a financial relationship with a business run by the applicants. So just that.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Go right ahead.
Great, Kathleen McCormick here on behalf of Air Hospitality LLC. We're here for amendments to a liquor license that we were here about a year ago for. My clients, a group of my clients had purchased the what is known as The Well from the prior owner just about a year ago. And they've had a very successful launch of their time, and when they went into the purchase, they knew they wanted to save the well. They knew that they wanted to make it a center place for the town, a place to gather, a place to serve good food. And during that process, the business morphed a little bit. And the ownership has changed. There was 4 original owners that all had equal shares when we were here the last time. And that was Josh Irwin, his wife Emily Irwin, Lisa Ake, and Nick Rhodes. Since then, Lisa, who's been the front of the house, and Emily, Emily Thompson, who's been the longtime bartender, they really took charge. They really got the staff behind them. They got a great vibe. And they really started making the well kind of the place that it has been. And the partnership decided to give Emily, who's been a bartender there since 2016, the ability to buy in to be a partner. Emily Irwin and Nick Rhodes are departing the business, and Emily Thompson is entering the business. To make this all work and to make Lisa and Emily Thompson be able to go forward with their vision and their excitement for the business, there was some restructuring that happened. And what that did to the business was Josh Irwin is taking a step back with a 10% ownership as opposed to his 25%. And Lisa and Emily are both going as a 45% ownership. They're both there. Lisa focuses on the front of the house. Emily focuses on the bar. Emily has been an asset and kind of the anchor of the bar since 2016. So it only makes sense for Emily to become the manager for the liquor license. So because of these changes, there's a few items that we're bringing. We're looking for a change of manager, a change of officers and director, basically the LLC changed, and a change of ownership percentage. Okay, so Emily's here with us tonight. Emily is in the middle because you probably haven't met Emily before. And then I'm also here with Josh Irwin and Lisa Ack as well. So we're hoping that the board will support these changes. Emily is there at least 35 hours a week. So she's there overseeing the bar. The management really happens as a joint partnership between Lisa and Emily to make sure that everything is under control and that they're always leading the ship. One of them is always there to make sure that everything goes according to plan. Yeah, I was just about to say, Emily does not have an interest in any other license. Josh also has an interest in Moon Cloud. So this just allows, frees up some more time for Josh and has Emily there all the time to basically support this structure.
Thank you. Any public comment for or against? Seeing none, any select board questions, comments?
I just have a question. So technically we're changing 3 items.
Yeah,
I-
change of manager.
Yeah.
The actual license manager. We're changing ownership. Cause that's required if there's any major change of ownership with the ABC. And we're changing the officers, director and manager of the LLC. So I didn't want to confuse the manager of an LLC is different than the manager of the liquor license.
So change of officer, director
And manager,
and
so
manager of LLC.
currently Josh Irwin is the manager that was identified on the LLC corporate secretary of state documents. But we have requested that Lisa and Emily be the manager. So it's just switching business roles.
Yeah.
Since they're the ones that are there managing the business as well.
Yeah. And as you said, all the hours open, all that stuff, we're not expecting any changes or.
I don't believe so, but I'm just as is right now, correct?
Yeah.
Yes,
And I'm sorry, the 2 ladies both have 45% interest? They're
Correct,
They're co-managers, is that what I'm understanding?
yeah, well, 45% for each one of them and 10 for Josh. So the 4-person partnership has gone down to 3.
Mhm.
And then 45, 45, 10.
Anyone else? Motion to close the public hearing,
So moved?
have a second,
Second.
roll call, Phil, aye, Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
and I. Any discussion or questions? Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the change of managers, change of officers, directors of LLC managers, and change of ownership interests for Air Hospitality LLC as it relates to all alcohol beverages on premise, liquor license held at 312 Main Street, Suite 1, Great Barrington, Mass. 01230, The Well.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So roll call vote, Phil, aye, Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
and I. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank
Thank you.
Okay, now we have the joint meeting of the select board and planning board. Here's the planning board is all present, so we don't need a roll call. Liz, do you want to?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The guy.
Perfect. You want to start with a discussion on the seasonal community designation?
Give a bit overview. The seasonal communities, as you know, was approved, the designation was approved at town meeting on May 2nd. There's several steps after that are included, and it involves the planning board, but it was a good time for discussion on if there's gonna be changes reform to zoning, that this might be an opportunity to look at the strategic priorities as well. So they're taking advantage of having 2 boards together, have a conversation about the future zoning changes that might be necessary. So with that, I will turn it over to Chris for the seasonal communities.
Yes, as Liz mentioned, one of the things that seasonal communities will impact is our zoning bylaws. And as the planning board has discussed before, and as we mentioned at town meeting, our bylaws are pretty close to being compliant with the seasonal community regulations, but there will be some tweaks needed. Berkshire Regional Planning Commission has granted district local technical assistance, or DLTA, to the town for this year to help us get up to speed on the zoning requirements. So I think it's a good time for the planning board to kind of set its agenda for the year. This is about the time when it starts to think about zoning that it will look at amending for the coming town meeting. So the seasonal communities is definitely one of those things, assuming the boards are in step on that matter. As you know, there are 2 things. One is the development of housing residential uses on undersized lots for attainable for those earning 250% or more, and also allowing tiny houses as year-round housing units. There are other things to possibly discuss, including whether or not to create a year-round housing trust, either just Great Barrington or with other seasonal communities in our area. It can be a regional trust. And then as soon as the funding round opens through the state, to apply for funding that's available for newly designated, communities that have newly accepted the designation. And those funds can help pay for technical assistance as the town is looking at either zoning or housing trusts or writing year-round housing occupancy restrictions and things like that. So zoning, housing trust, funds, those are the big ticket items I think that we could discuss and make sure that we're all in alignment on this.
Can I just ask Chris, the housing trust one, so if a community already has a housing trust, so how or what have you seen in terms of the guidance on seasonal communities that allows that existing frame structure to be leveraged for this seasonal community use, or is it a sort of start over again?
The year-round housing trust is chartered differently, so it has to be newly formed and newly appointed. It can be the same people, If those people are, they just need to stop one meeting and then gavel in a new meeting under a different authority. So yeah, technically it is a different, empowerment.
What about the lease?
The regional can be done as part of the year round. So presumably if the town wanted to set up a year round housing trust at that time, before that time, we would discuss with other seasonal communities around us to see if they're interested in a regional trust and do it all together.
So
That's,
the year-round housing trust, so can it incorporate the affordable housing trust? I mean, I know it doesn't work the other way around, but it can. You know what I'm saying, right? So can it then absorb the newly created, absorb what the affordable housing trust was doing, meaning?
Possibly, but if it's a regional year-round housing trust, then it'd be difficult for them to be the same people, obviously.
If it's regional.
If it's,
And so when it's regional, you wouldn't have like an individual town one and then just they are
Correct.
members that are part of it, it would be
One-
something separate.
one group with representatives from all the various communities.
And so then all the development would be, that group would be talking about the development now
Correct.
and dispersing the fund.
can you answer me, Chris, the exact differences or why we can't meld these two together? The housing trust obviously has experience, it's been around for a couple of years and.
It's just because their authority in state law is in two different places. And the one doesn't give the other the authority to incorporate, that's all.
Okay, so, let's say the people in the affordable housing trust said, yeah, that's a great idea, because you had mentioned if they want to do it, or if they want to do it. Or if we want to do it, I'm on that trust.
Yeah, the process would be the town meeting would have to establish the year-round housing trust. And then through whatever bylaws are accepted, the membership would fill in that way.
Okay.
It may be the same people.
Chris,
It might not be.
is there any rush to form this regional or town trust? As opposed to just waiting until next annual town meeting?
No, I think all of this can be on a track towards the next main town meeting.
Like you
Are
want to
there
do
other examples of regional planning? I mean, these groups coming together as a region?
As a regional housing trust, no, they're
So this
brand
is
new.
the first time doing something like this.
and so there's no examples of a regional affordable housing trust in the state.
I don't know.
Yes.
Maybe under different authorities, but not as this year round.
Chris, the state level regional situation, does members in that, is that voted in by the citizens or by the region, or is there terms on it? Do we know that information? Is there requirements is it tiered out 3, 2, 1 year terms or?
The law has some requirements on the terms and also how it survives if the senior communities designation is ever revoked by the state.
Mhm.
You know, there's certain provisions for the trust to survive, or at least the trust. Let's say it holds occupancy restrictions. But in terms of how the trust is set up or voted in, or who the representatives are, that's something, if it's regional, you'd have to discuss with the other towns. So 2 from this town, 2 from that town. You know, that's a discussion that we'd have to have.
And following your timetable where we wait for the regular town meeting next year. Do you have a feel for when we would need to figure out if we want to do regional or just solely Great Barrington?
I don't have a good sense of that. There's not a rush to, have an answer next month. But I think we queue up the interest, queue up the discussions if these boards are interested.
So there has been a view expressed that there are benefits to acting much faster. Sounds like you're disagreeing with that.
What are those, what is that viewpoint?
Well, it was an opinion piece in the paper that suggested that, you're just getting everything started much faster, you'll have access. Theoretically, you'd have access to the funds in a shorter timetable.
Well, the funds are available when the NOFA or notice of funding availability is actually released, and then you respond to it, so I'm not aware that that NOFA is released yet.
Right.
And also, I believe that there's a large sum of funds that are intended to be distributed to each community, so while it is competitive, for the moment, I put that in air quotes, and assume that we'll be getting a fair chunk, whether we fly tomorrow or whether we fly in December.
And again, you may not know this, I understand, but could, if we elect to have our new affordable housing trust as just a town-only trust, could we then subsequently elect to partner up with another town's new affordable housing trust and sort of do it that way, sort of after the fact, as opposed to before?
You could, depending on how town meeting votes it in. Or you may have to go back to town meeting to establish a regional. So you might want to think about what the bylaw looks like as we write it and whether to allow flexibility for that or not.
All right, good idea.
Let me just ask one other thing, does it behoove us to have it like that, or does it matter, or just we have it in our own town, or do we have to? If it's reasonable, we have to speak to other towns. Or can we just make it a town and not include?
I don't know if we know all of the benefits of having it town specific or regional yet, so I can't answer that. I don't see any issues with either one. There may be benefits to having it regional or having it just locally in Great Barrington. To be discussed.
Mhm.
And maybe we need to back up, because we're getting excited about doing something regionally, but we don't even know if our neighbors are also seasonal communities yet, right? So in the Berkshires, you have to meet a certain housing threshold to trigger that, right? So do we have an idea of who amongst our neighbors are also pursuing seasonal community designation?
There are others eligible. I don't yet know who is accepted it.
So we need that to sort out a little bit to see if even that makes sense.
Stockbridge is certainly. Yes, they're eligible.
Chris, to go back to the eligibility for the funds, do you have to form the trust before you're eligible?
I didn't see that in the note in last year's NOFA, the notice of funds available,
Okay,
funding availability. Maybe it'll change. Well, maybe I missed it, but I don't think so.
that's fair. Anyone else?
Are there, the state already have regulations on how to adopt either the year-long or the regional one? In other words, does it have to go to town meeting, or could it just be?
It must go to town meeting.
It does both? Both do?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, housing trusts have broad authority and only the voters can grant that.
Anyone else? You need anything from us?
Yeah, so I think we need to discuss kind of a timeline. So we have some milestones and goals to achieve. So there's obviously the zoning needs to be looked at, making sure that it is compliant with the expectations of meeting the designation. That can be reviewed by the state and then formally accepted. So, and then also the new trust. So I think we need to kind of piece out a kind of a timeline, so staff knows as well as both boards on if it is a goal to have it. I believe, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 2-year window for the zoning to be adopted. So if we want to, and it might be aggressive and it may not be, but having it set for the first milestone of bringing reform, zoning reform to next annual town meeting, then we have all winter, fall and winter to work on it, have the public hearings, and then have it ready for the annual town meeting warrant. And then if there are any changes on town meeting floor that pauses it, we still have a whole nother year to go before the timeline expires. So those are things that we need to have a sense from both boards as to what the expectations are for making sure that we have the right amount of dialogue and be prepared for town meeting.
I'd be curious to hear from the planning board there.
We're pretty
Zoning.
aggressive about making zoning changes and we're pretty experienced at doing a lot of zoning changes, so I think a year and then if we need to make modifications due to what happens 27 town meeting, I don't see that as a problem. You guys ready for that? Okay, yes.
Depends upon what else is on our plate.
I think this is important enough, so we would.
Well, that's the next conversation, yeah.
I mean, it's really just two things we have to look at.
Yeah.
And one of them's already in, because we'll change the status of the review to by right on the tiny homes, and then put the other one, we kind of till then. That's not much.
Chris, when does our DLTA start? Does that
Uh,
start in August?
It should really start July first, and then in some correspondence with BRPC on that, and they've been working with other towns as well and waiting for the state to finalize all of its various regulations before they really hit the ground running.
Yeah.
In July
We
1st.
don't see a problem. We've worked with BRPC under the DLTA program previously and, you know, as long as they can help us with the assessment piece of it as far as the process of doing some community engagement and writing updated zoning text and doing the hearings and all of that, I think with Chris's guidance, I don't see any problem with having something ready for May 27th.
You have the answer to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
So the regs that the state issued in February, they're still updating.
I'll check in with BRPC, but there's a lot of, there hasn't been.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
It was in 2 years.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can someone clarify for me what job descriptions actually qualify for this subsidized housing?
Right, so one of the benefits of being a seasonal community is that the year-round housing trust can hold year-round housing restrictions, and essential municipal or public employees can have a preference to get those housing units. The regs define the public employees, municipal, county, state, but it's public as opposed to nonprofit. So in this case, it could include, we're talking essential, I'm sorry, essential public, so police, fire, teachers in the school district. But it would not include currently under the current law, nurses at the hospital, ambulance drivers, because they're nonprofits. So the current law is the preferences for essential publicly employed employees.
Why do you?
Based on the town meeting, it seems that the town is nonprofit.
Thank you, Jonathan. Always enjoy your comments.
Hey, Chris, what is the discussion about that? What, is there a discussion about trying to change that? Because
There may be, the law would have to change.
but it's not something that.
And could special municipal employees,
Like planning.
like everyone in this room?
We're talking essential, not special, it's very special. And our essential. No,
We couldn't make an ambulance driver a special municipal employee.
Oh, I see.
We can't even get a dedicated parking spot.
no, unfortunately.
Go ahead.
About why nonprofits are not included? Or have they ever been included in public and nonprofit?
It's just the way the law is written, just the law does not say public and or nonprofit employees,
Ever.
it just says public.
We can put it on our agenda for our
That's-
next meeting, but we should probably all read the regulation. That's very dry.
I was looking for the reason behind that.
It's the law, I don't know. who-
That's the
who wrote
reason.
it.
Yeah, I believe it was generated on tape more because I believe Senator Julian Sear was a big sponsor of the bill, and because there's a really a hard
attraction to retain municipal employees, especially essential workers on the Cape and the Islands, that especially when you have like, for example, Nantucket's average home is $3 million. So they're building actually housing for their police, fire, even their summer interns, and they're having housing for their municipal employees. So, and the same thing with Provincetown, the average house is about $1.5 million. So you can't really do that when you're, an admin secretary, you know, or any, who's making only $50,000 or $60,000 a year. So, so I think that was the initial start, was those really constricted communities, and then it carried into the rest of the Cape and the other, seasonal dependent, or impacted communities, which then carried us into it as well.
So, can we assume that this point about the nonprofits is something that we've communicated to Lee Davis and Paul Mark, and something that's a concern?
I am not on the committee. There's a statewide committee that advisory committee, and there's different memberships and stakeholders involved with it. So I will talk to Senator Mark. He sits on the committee itself, so, and I do have some colleagues from the Cape that I can reach out to as well to see if there's conversations about that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? What else do you need from us?
I think that's it for seasonal
Good.
communities.
And we'll go right into the, select board strategic priorities.
Did we talk about those timelines or is those like housing discussion for the second part of that, not the zoning, but the trust? Like what that's gonna look like?
I think we'll get into that. I think it's too early to tell me or the guidance and yes, it was definitely.
Yes.
So exactly, be planning board then?
Yeah, that's what it seems like that discussion needs to be more than, like, that discussion needs to be at least this.
It's not very like easy back and forth relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
This is the old days.
Have another meeting.
One way or another, one group or another.
I mean, as long as there is not a rush to do that, I think we can do it within a year. If there's a rush to do it, then. But there doesn't appear that it's.
Well, I mean,
It's the kind of thing that we do.
We will be remake on record.
because I believe it's gonna be,
Yeah.
I think if it's gonna be regional, it's gonna be a long
That's a different answer,
conversation.
Correct.
We can bring back, more in-depth information and research, so we can, if there are regional trusts, we can bring examples to you and language to you and, timelines and other things, so, yeah, we can give you updates and provide that for the next conversation.
If you wanna go ahead on the select board strategic priorities.
Sure, so, extra seats and in your packets, so there's two documents. I had placed, the strategic priority plan that was adopted December 1st. And the select board, like to review this, their goal is to review them every 6 months. So this made it very fitting for us to, be here on June 1st. And we're meeting that target to the date. But in the packet itself, Chris and I actually put it into a spreadsheet. All of the areas of focus with the tiers and the names of the projects involved with the priorities and the status of them. And then in your packets as well are highlighted in yellow, the areas where there was actually found that Chris and I had identified overlap between the potential of planning board and the select board, as far as all of the initiatives, the areas of focus, whether it be infrastructure, whether it be housing, environmental, municipal service, any of those, all of the six. So, this is also an opportunity while we're together to talk about these things, see if there are zoning changes that, the select board are included in. The select board see as some barriers that they have been experiencing or getting feedback on that may help generate more economic support and out into the community as well. So
Just so you know, Liz, the copies that's in our packet, online was color, but we got black and white, so we don't
I
have,
apologize.
we don't have that
Okay,
advantage.
So I will go through, okay, so, did you get the color copies? There wasn't an
Obviously, we know lights.
That's right.
Actually, just halfway through, yeah.
They have. planning board.
Yep, right there.
Planning board. okay.
Yes. I do not, we'll make some,
Yeah, I will make them for the select board.
and can you make
So-
some for the audience?
Yeah, I
Thank you.
Live on.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you're up, assistant. Assistant TN. So. You just ask a quick question about the trust again, would it make sense to just get rid of the affordable trust and do the year-round trust, so we don't have like all these different bureaucratic, timetables to deal with? I mean, it would do the same thing, with, I'm assuming with the year-round trust, we can handle, AMIs up to 250. Right? Right, and so we're not really limited, I don't really see what the plan is, I just see this.
We'll look into that.
Is the like with the procurement, like it's the same for both trusts?
We will look into that.
Yeah, well, they sit on that board, I think we should be involved, at least the people involved, at least in Nanda and Fred at the very least. Should get involved and start co-chairs of that, it sounds to me. Certainly, I would like to be involved, know what's going on.
Just don't wanna lose it if there's any advantages for the affordable housing trust has that the year round doesn't have, we want, then. I wanna make sure not to lose those.
Maybe just another point about the concept of a regional, I'd say. The big question would be basically how much money are we getting? And if it's too small to do anything, then I think a regional concept becomes a little more worthwhile to think about. Maybe vice versa.
Other, lines were just sort of spitballing, other opportunities. I mean, look, the housing problem obviously is regional in nature. And it can't be solved in just one community.
Yeah.
And the development sites might be here, it might be in another community, in order to make an impact. So there may be reasons, because of the regional nature of the problem, maybe just because of where development occur, to have it be regional.
Looking at clean energy. All those possible overlaps. Yeah.
Do you want to say more about that?
No, I don't.
I mean, I would think one of the advantages of the regionals that we can kind of maybe put pressure on these other towns to take up some of the slack.
Actually,
We've been producing
do
a lot of
something,
housing. here.
maybe.
It'd be nice if,
Well, and or, if one town doesn't have the water and sewer to build. Denser housing like Great Barrington can, they could pay Great Barrington to do so. So, working regionally you can leverage your strengths and your opportunities and. Work as a team, hopefully.
That's what working has to.
Recent experience suggests it might make the whole process more complicated.
Just clean it,
Or go on the limb and say,
it's like having two trusts.
I was thinking the same thing. You have so many people, it'd be a problem. I agree with
There has to be this desire on both sides.
There were friendly people in the house, and that's, the board.
no worries.
Yeah.
No problem. Or. Oh, here we go. School and.
Oh,
Wow, look at that.
so this is what, okay,
Yes,
Thank you for your patience, sorry.
thank you.
Everybody should have color copies, yeah?
Wow.
Fantastic, thank you.
That.
Okay. All right, so there are 6 areas of focus, infrastructure, and assets, housing, public safety and health, sustainability and environmental, and economic development and municipal services. On the first page at the bottom, under the core priority of bridges, roads, sidewalks, and complete streets, the first item that Chris and I identified was the actual complete streets themselves, and that updated plan was possible, and yeah, so that is something that we had identified in there that needs to be updated, so this is our time to discuss that, really.
How does it normally get updated?
The planning board has had some of these discussions already relative to some streets, that it's seen or development proposals or other things going on, so it's been talking a little bit about traffic calming, police streets for not just cars, so people and bikes also. The original plan was written by a task force, I believe, established possibly by the planning board. I have to go back and look at that. It was 2017, 2018, and I think there are representatives from various boards and citizens. It was only 5 or 7. How are you going? You want it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were thinking that many of the things that were in the previous plan have been accomplished. Sidewalks to Stonic, sidewalks on West Avenue, Lake Mansfield project, traffic calming. There are other things that may yet need to be added as the town grows and develops in different places and in different ways. So.
Chris, there's not like a state timeline on that when it should be.
There isn't, no, there's no, it shall be updated every 10 years or something. Applications for complete streets grants, which we've been successful with in the past, are on kind of a rolling basis every year. You could make the case that an updated plan would give more weight to projects that the town really wants to get funding for.
So there's changes that occur, projects, my Haley Street for one, the new apartment there. So that it would make sense to update or do a new plan.
Yeah, there's been a lot of changes since e-bikes weren't a thing when we had the previous plan, and that is, I don't know, that's changed a lot of things, and it's the idea of having a separate multi-use path that's not part of the road. Like that.
So,
and
yeah, I think I wouldn't lose sight of still trying to apply for funding if we have projects that are ready.
I think there's still projects on that aren't completed.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
I think there's definitely that, it named a lot of projects, and I think we can check a bunch of them off, but then there's probably a number, offhand, there's a number of projects that we've talked about that aren't in there.
Why don't we, as a planning board, take up I think it's 2018 futures plan, right? So we'll take up the plan, we can look at it, I believe there's a map in there that shows where at the time we thought linkages needed to be made, we can sort of see what's already been made. Or where new hubs of development, either in Sedona or Barrington have come in, and then maybe on parallel path, we can identify if there are still projects. Some of them may come to you guys though, as far as capital priorities.
Yep.
And then we can in parallel look to see if there are new places where we would need to recommend additional linkages.
Makes sense.
Sound good?
What about the maintenance item, which is the town's policy for how much of town sidewalks are plowed by the town over the winter relative to those that are not? Essentially a plowing policy for sidewalks.
We do have a plowing list of sidewalks, but there's been no discussion on updating it.
Right, I think there was a view expressed this past winter that we we plow a lot of sidewalks.
Is that bad or good?
Well, it depends on your point of view, I think. We're providing a high level of service. And maybe it could be other towns where a similar sidewalk, you know, is sort of just up to the owner of the property to plow.
Oh, that's like 2 years ago and this past year, the year before. I felt like I was climbing out and I should have had snowshoes to get into the store, but somehow or other, last year, the sidewalks were plowed, so it felt good, so. I didn't realize it.
Right, and it was a high level of service, but we all appreciated it, just there's a pretty big bill attached to it, so it's really a budget policy. Yeah.
So, Phil, is your question more one of, do we need to have a sidewalk law that talks about property maintenance and owners shoveling their own sidewalk, be it in a residential district versus a business district or something like that?
I think
That would be a discussion.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm fishing around to try to figure out how this should be approached, because it definitely came up as a financial matter. You know, I mean, again, I think everyone likes to have their sidewalk plowed, but we just had a pretty hefty bill show up last year, and it just seems like that might be something we wanna consider as we consider everything from a budgetary and a cost basis.
Where is liability in this?
Under the ice.
I always thought that the liability lies with the owner of the property, so if it's
Well, I can tell you that I walk these sidewalks are in front of this building every day pretty much, and in the winter, there was a time where they weren't plowed. So I'm not sure you wanna,
I mean, the town hall sidewalk.
yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty clear that those should be plowed by town staff, but I'm saying if it's private, if it's private property in front of a storefront or in front of a residence.
We own the sidewalks in front of the storefronts.
Yeah.
Right, well,
It is not only just ours, but obviously we know that equipment fails and snow blowers and the sidewalk, you know, it's not just a plow, it's basically a giant snow blower contraption, and those things take a lot of beating, so there is expense in there. Previously, when you know, in my early 30s, I lived in Pittsfield for a while, and the homeowner was responsible to clear the streets in front of their house, and if you didn't within 24 hours, you would get a ticket. And I do believe it's similar to like some of their main commercial areas as well. So, you know, it is nice to walk the streets of Housatonic after the plow goes by. But it is an expense, and if we're at a point where we're cutting every nickel possible, that is something that we should probably look into.
And I'm not sure if this is strategic planning, but the other part of this is, if it snows on a Saturday, do we have to plow the sidewalks on Saturday and Sunday, or can we wait till it's not overtime?
Right.
So I'm not sure if this is strategic
no,
planning.
I
or
agree, but
finance.
you know, I'm not sure when's the right time to bring this up, so.
I had called one time because I lived in Castle Hill Avenue. There's no castles up there. I don't live in one. But anyway, they were plowing Holland back, they didn't plow us, but I called the town, or excuse me, the police station to find out who was responsible, and they said the owner was not responsible, that's what they said, push shoveling their sidewalk. But I thought they were, they said they weren't. I don't know if they didn't have the correct information, if that's correct, but that's what the information I received when I checked. They said that wasn't the responsibility of the owner.
Well,
Well, it should be, but it said it wasn't.
yes. There is no law that says
Correct, I guess, yeah.
the owner must plow it. There's also no law that says the town must plow.
Right, there are certain streets and areas within a street also that have been identified as that it is on the top of the DPW's list for maintaining.
Castleville? No, I'm not bothered by it myself.
No, yeah, there's certain, you know, downtown core districts of areas where around, especially to get to essential services, so, but those are, you know, this was a unique winter, for sure. And we're short-staffed, and, it was kind of the perfect storm, really. So, the staff took a beating, and not just the equipment, but the staff took a beating this winter.
I don't know if it's possible, is there any, or Chris, if we can tell, I would like to see it, maybe we know where most congregation seniors are. That those roads get plowed, those sidewalks get plowed. I don't know how we figure that out.
Yeah, that would be, I think on a municipal service, that would be down in the area of focus of municipal services, that maybe we can look at how staff and our capabilities and our capacities for staffing and expectations, and also around the budget of how do we, if that is something that you want to add in to the priorities, that around those, vulnerable populations, and what kinds of support do town services go towards it, so. Yeah.
I could,
Let's keep up with it.
As I mentioned, this one thing before we get off complete street.
Yeah, please.
So June 9th, VRPC is hosting, we'll meet at Mason Library and discuss bike paths. And it's in the common edge that I send, or the common ground that I send everybody.
Yes.
It's in there for all the rest of it.
Okay.
It's in the common ground and they send it, right? I'm not sure, I don't, it's, but it's, I know it's,
We're actually meeting that night, so let us know what happens.
well, I couldn't understand what you said, June 9th, page?
June 9th, there's a meeting that VRPC is hosting. I'm not sure if they're running it, but they're hosting it at the library on bike paths.
And one more thing too on complete streets, if you're gonna create a sidewalk policy, can you think about where street trees fit into that policy? If we have like a pre-lawn between the curb and the sidewalk, or if the town wants to think about a beyond the right of way policy, for street trees, but there's been a lot of tree discussion, and I think it goes to the public health strategy next in terms of cooling. We've had a lot of conversations with the folks in the tree committee, since we did it at LSRB.
Nice.
Is
Yeah.
all for complete streets?
Yeah.
Okay, and then, going into page 2 at the bottom of 5G technology was a drafting and implementing regulations to control locations of 5G antennas in town. So,
We have to go.
We don't, the issue with 5G is that 5G technologies requires a lot of antennas. You know, 5G travels, like it's more powerful and can do more, but it travels shorter distance than typical cell phone.
Every 50 feet or.
You know, it's line of sight, too, right?
Yeah, it's almost line of sight, so you could imagine like going down the street and instead of a tree, a light pole, it's antenna. And they could look kind of not so nice, and there were a lot of them. So some towns have created bylaws to say, if you're gonna put 5G antennas in the public right of way, they need to look like X, they need to be on the antenna or co-located and things like that. So currently, we don't have that, so essentially the antennas can be located and will go. I think it's under the probably the Federal Trade Commission of Telecommunications. I'm getting an acronym wrong. But you know, the town would have little control unless we actually implement a local bylaw governing the right of way.
So that means someone came in and wanted to put 5G antenna on all our light poles on Main Street, for example.
Yep.
We would have no say in that right now.
Not much.
but there are towns that have implemented zoning regulations and regulations in general on what they look like, what the height is also, size and all of it, so.
So that's allowed.
It is, I actually worked on it in the town of Barnstable initially, so, yeah, it's pretty extensive, but it's possible, so you can restrict it. And put it on town poles versus, actual private owned poles, so.
Can you share that plan?
I have drafts, yeah, and I can definitely get the actual passage, it was right before I left in 2022.
We just want to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
But it's something that's been on the select board's list for a while, and, you know, we've not advanced it in a meaningful way.
Well, that's the select board item, not a planning board item.
I don't know what you did in Barnstable, but if it's if it's within the town right away, it's not a zoning issue, it's a general bylaw. But you can collaborate with.
Yeah, it was
Or
different.
other board too.
It was different in Barnstable because the town manager had, it's a town council form of government and the town manager actually had it under his or her jurisdiction, so it was a bylaw under that that position, so different form of government.
Well, with the way it's progressing, maybe that should be brought up on our priority list a little higher then.
Cause it also, some of the other components of it that at least were being experienced on the Cape were that it was being installed actually in front of houses and in historic districts as well. So there were regulations that were helping assist with how far it could be from even a school versus you know, another type of development or other things like that. So yeah. So I think I agree. I'm glad to see it on there, but there is something that we need to at least, we haven't done anything in the last 6 months and we
Yeah.
need some guidance on it. So while we were all together, Chris and I thought it would be good to have a discussion on it, so.
Could we consider a general policy implementation, basically saying if someone wants to do this, they need to essentially get the equivalent of a special permit to do it, as opposed to putting in all the detailed regulations about aesthetics where the spending a huge amount of time.
Yeah, if there's, I mean, if this is of interest, then we can provide you examples of variations of different towns of what they've done, that's comparable for Great Barrington. And then we can present it to you and get a consensus on that as well.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, page 2. Under public health and safety, strategic priority 2, under speed calming measures and traffic management. You can see that there are 4 areas that were highlighted. Continuing to identify areas of need for reducing vehicle impacts. There's the East Street corridor, there's the South Main Street area, as well as connecting thoroughfares from abutting communities.
Is it true that the speed feedback signs collect counts and speeds? Is that data we can get our hands on?
Some of them do, in some cases, we no longer have the budget to pay for that cloud service.
Okay. But is historic data still available to us?
Possibly not.
Could we possibly check?
Mhm.
Which ones?
Could we check to see what data is available to us, maybe from the past 2 or 3 years? From those speed feedback signs, whether it's current or historic, it may be helpful as we look at complete streets to understand what the traffic speeds are.
We can see at BRPC 2 this year, we'll do a traffic counts. They lay the tubes across the road and do traffic counts on speed. So over the last 10 or 15 years, we've covered most of the major streets, but it's about time to start that cycle again.
Yeah.
And then when we were in construction on the bridges, and I heard at the discussion about the Cottage Street Bridge. We need to have some way to slow the traffic around these areas that are under construction or kids are playing. And are they temporary or can they just, are they permanent? I don't know how it works, but I was wondering, getting here with the East Street corridor. But I was wondering if that was related to the bridge. Besides everything else is going on.
I think, Jackie, that's like when it's busy in the summertime, people take East Street and the posted speed limit is 25 miles per hour and they have 2 or 3 of those speed feedback signs and people still just fly down that road. I think they even added the stop sign recently.
I was thinking about
Yeah.
person who came out talking about his children and playing in this area very near the turnoff.
Yeah.
Dangerous,
Yeah,
and I was just wondering, what is the town, what can the town do?
It is dangerous and, you know, when Chief Storty was here, they went over and they added stop signs in multiple locations and, we're doing a traffic study, which we're gonna resort back to and get some more feedback on eventually here is the plan. What I thought, after our last time, when Chief Carlotta was here, there was a discussion and he had the counts of how many people were using the road previously and who were using it after all the new stop signs went in and the count of people using that road didn't go down, which I didn't know was the actual goal. I was thinking it was to slow people down, but they're trying to make it inconvenient for a cutoff. So that was something that was interesting for me. But as you see, I mean, just in the past couple of weeks, the traffic's already started and it does get congested through there. So it is something that we got to keep looking at, I would say.
I think the other main issue in that corridor is people not coming to full stops at the stop signs. That's the number one thing I hear from people in the neighborhood. I get videos of cars rolling through these stop signs. I know the family who's had a car drive into their front yard, due to one car going through the intersection while another car was also going through the intersection. So it's, I think, looking at solutions that aren't ignorable, that are actually kind of direct traffic in a way that people can't just take a suggestion to ignore.
And it's the other streets up there too, like Gilmore Ave and Lakeview and because just doing service calls and you can see in the high point of the summer, people with road rage, they just rip off of Main Street, let's say, and just go flying up those streets and it is scary watching when I'm there. I don't even live on the street, but it's.
And to answer your question, it was separate from the bridge. This
Yeah.
discussion has been going on a while in that neighborhood.
I had a gentleman who had come into the store where I worked, had said that initially they were not working, the stop signs, but he's recently said they seem to be working better. And I threw this out last year and didn't get such favorable opinion, but we're still concerned about not using that. I also thought we can channel people right by it, come down the regular state road, maybe make the light a little quicker, but it will keep people from going down these roads, which was more of the goal than slowing them down, was trying to or mitigate that traffic going down there. And I don't know, I don't see what's so terrible about it. It's always crowded. I used to work at the package store, Plaza Package, for some reason, it didn't matter what day of the week it was, at about 3 o'clock, that road was always congested, State Road. So I don't know if that has anything to do, but I don't think it would make it, personally, I don't think it's gonna make it any slower because it's already has some of those times and it would be a little safer, personally. That's my 2 cents.
Bill?
I think this is will be a top priority issue. It's a grave concern to me, and I'm sure many others here. I'm particularly concerned about, I definitely have experienced these streets, and I've more direct experience with speeding on South Main Street and the traffic events there. And personal experience, given I live on a connecting thoroughfare from from an abutting community, that's a huge problem. And that's a disaster waiting to happen, is from my anecdotal observations. So I guess my question is, what do we need to do to enable us to be more proactive and just move more quickly and implementing some changes?
So there's, if you wanna slow down traffic, you write a law and say,
Thank you.
that's the easiest way. That's how traffic goes, crawl through South Agawam. They just wrote a lot of tickets. And like everybody like screeches to a halt before they go down Main Street. And the other way is speed humps. Put speed humps on all the roads, like Main Street, all these side roads. Just put, that's gonna slow everyone down, because everyone that hits that speed is gonna be like, whoa. And, you know.
You're
it'll
right,
go
although
really
we've been told that as a practical matter, those speed humps are really bad with our plowing issues.
I know, so then we
They're
have to.
seasonal installation.
Yeah,
that can be
you can
done.
take them out, you can do versions that take them out, I mean, you can do speed bumps, speed humps.
Yeah, there's ones where even it's an elevated platform along the crosswalk, so it actually is higher up. The
Yeah.
plow, it just needs to know that they need to take their time going up and over, but you'll definitely see the scratches of the bottoms of the cars when they hit it the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is definitely, I've witnessed it and not here, but, you know, in other areas on the Cape, because it's, you know, the last 20-some years of my life, but, that has been a significant calming factor in very high traffic areas of just speeding, but you have a congested corridor of retail and a lot of pedestrian traffic that cannot cut across, and having those crosswalks actually elevated up, it becomes the speed bump, but then the pedestrians are not on literally the ground, they're up almost a half a foot or even higher up, so they can push out, and it's a different color, it's much more aesthetic, but it's also safety calming.
Stockbridge has that a little bit.
A little bit, and everyone had, I believe, has some complete street improvements of that as well.
Phil, to answer your questions, to make this, and then that, sorry, to make this a priority, we asked the staff to come back to us with recommendations. It's not our expertise, but to come back with recommendations, you know, keeping in mind financial and number of staff we have, making more and more priorities, it's gonna dilute the effectiveness of it.
No, agree.
Yeah, I mean, so I agree with everything that's being said, you know, to Jeremy's point, like, I think solution B more than A, like, I think. I know we're saying about writing tickets, I think the feedback that we've gotten from the chief is that it's a manpower issue of just actually being able to get them staff there enough to make it effective. And again, it's, so that's depending on scheduling and then budget and all of that. Versus something that if we just fundamentally change the way people drive in these spaces, then hopefully, yeah, we don't have to have someone monitoring it the whole time. So I think speed bumps, people have been asking for that in the neighborhood, finding a way that works for us. There has to be a solution. I think the other way too of something that I think would be interesting to consider is narrowing the intersections, so people actually have to be more present and aren't going through them as quickly, and just increasing pedestrian safety in those intersections as well. So I mean, hopefully relatively low cost solutions that could have an impact on these neighborhoods. But it's definitely, I felt that we need to really kind of make sure that this is the top priority.
Yeah, when you put traffic furniture in the middle of the roads too, to narrow it, I mean, that's what, watch a lot of bicycles.
That's what I wanted down on South Main Street.
All over the place, and what they talk about in bicycle racing is they've also removed a lot of it for the bicycle racing.
Yeah.
Like at big cost to the communities, and so, I mean, it is, yeah, I don't know. It might be a revenue generator, at least in the short term.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. No,
Yeah,
we
not
should
really.
we should still ticket these things too. There's no.
I just said one thing about South Main. I do appreciate the work that was done down there, but I think that there may have to be something else. 'Cause when it's on the road, you don't really see it that well. And I found myself, and I see other people, and you said it even happened to yourself. You get down there and you're moving pretty quickly, and you don't even know it. And it's like, oh shit. And I know because I've advocated for it, and I know because I'm always going down there. But I think, I don't know if we're allowed to have, you will be ticketed if you go over the speed limit, or I love that little sign that turns red and blue, like, that slows me down. How I see that. So, well, no comment.
Yeah, so there,
But I think it's.
we did actually incorporate
Oh,
South Main
okay,
Street
yeah.
identified at Reed, for the capital improvement. So there is a CIP, project for that improvement for the crosswalk. So that was one of 5 areas that we have money set aside from this, town meeting. Now, Chris and I have also been in discussions with VRPC that there's a possible study that we could be added into for a project like a
pilot program. And so they have that on their radar as a potential, so hopefully we can hear back if we made the cut. They have it, actually, it's elongated all the way up to Pittsfield, so there's several communities in, so. Luckily, that's on their radar as well, so we do have advocacy for opportunities that we are being considered, so that's a lot better than even 6 months ago, yeah, so. Okay.
Okay.
Alright, the next one further down on the same page is under childcare accessibility assessment, is actually continuing to support the committee and identifying needs and recommendations. Is it for childcare, was it for daycare, was it for?
I don't know, but I think the select board certainly has heard before. I don't know if the planning board has heard much from the child care committee. Or not, or one of the other. But in terms of, an economic development and workforce issue, it's absolutely critical to have childcare, just like transportation. How do you get to your job? Well, you're not gonna go to a job or to school or wherever if you can afford childcare. So that's what the committee is looking at. I'm not sure what the recommendations were.
Yeah.
I don't think we've gotten to the point of recommendations. It's still kind of in a fact-finding phase. As a committee made up of people who work in childcare and advance themselves, we were kind of waylaid by cold and flu season, and having trouble making a quorum for a while. And so, it's, the chair is looking to kind of regroup and bring information back for the select board, hopefully soon. And I would love, I'm sure, to talk to the planning board as well.
On page 4, we go into housing. And as you can see, there's quite a bit that's highlighted here. Continue support, the first box is continue support for affordable housing trust to advance redevelopment and development opportunities. And this is in there, the aging in place section of affordable and workforce housing. And then the second box is exploring workforce housing options by other communities in the state. And then seasonal communities is the third within that section, so.
You know, I'd like to mention something, I'd like to see a little bit more collaboration with these boards when we're discussing projects that the trust is managing together. Just so that we can have some design input, some ideas about how developments should, how they can be improved and so forth. The way we're reviewing some projects, because of the way the bylaws are written, you guys are handling one special permit, we're handling another one, have to come to us before they come to you, and then they come to you before we get the final say, and so then it's, I don't think that it's right now a great process. And I think that we can really have just better developments coming from the town. I think we have more conversation among boards when those developments come forward.
And I think we have cluster development as a new strategy. And I think talking with people who are thinking about developing in these different locations would be very helpful if we are involved, because we've struggled through it and have more distinctive ideas regarding it.
Go ahead.
I would like to think that maybe we should have the Affordable Housing Trust Fund at one of these future meetings, because we're speaking about it. I'm on it. I think they're doing a pretty good job. So I don't know if I can be unbiased to speak about it, but we're really cognizant of what's going on, what needs to be done. We have a lot of issues that we're working on as well. And I'm not sure, Pedro, are you suggesting that maybe we speak with you guys perhaps about what the projects that we're doing for the affordable housing season?
I think the trust should come to the planning board as well. And when it comes to designing the projects, I think we would have invaluable suggestions to make projects that are just more successful. And from an aesthetic point of view, from a functional point of view, you know. Since they're coming from the town, I think, you know, we should be talking.
Yeah.
You know, we're the ones, we look at all developments, and we have expertise on this board. That I think that is maybe not being used, you know. To its potential. For some of the projects that we've seen. And I'm not criticizing the board, I think the trust does a great job, don't get me wrong. I think, you know, but I think we can do better. And if we're talking, particularly because of the way the process works, if we're talking, you know, more often and maybe even have joint meetings when we have reviews, for example, that kind of thing.
That's
That's
just
what
more
I-
efficient.
Yeah, that, like the one we did on Maple Street or whatever, and it was just a small sign with the yoga studio, but we had a joint meeting and you guys approved your section, we approved ours. And I do think that that sort of cooperation and more joint meetings amongst not just our boards, but like you're saying, Pedro, whether it's the affordable house or whichever it is, even with the finance committee, like. I think in general, the more our boards work together, probably the better and more efficient we'll be. And you know, I strive to listen to a lot of other meetings, but it's not the same as actually sitting right in with one with your colleagues. So I do agree across the board with that.
We need to be more user friendly, less siloed. It's, what ends up happening is people who have large projects spend a lot of money going to separate meetings.
Yeah,
When, if we're all in the same room, it makes sense.
cuts those lawyer fees down, right?
I would like to bring that up to the board, at our next meeting, which is gonna be, I think, on the 19th, it's a Tuesday. But we've had some differences, I think, with the planning board, so I wanna be sure everybody's comfortable.
Fred and I have talked many times, so
Good.
I'm happy to have further conversations. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey,
And as far as seasonal communities and workforce housing, we'll make sure that that gets folded into the discussion we're having.
Okay,
So
so,
I actually have to go to another meeting, so I'm gonna need to leave.
but I think the consensus was, I'm sorry, the consensus was to look at the process a little bit more and see
Yes.
how it can be streamlined as well as open more communication between all parties. Okay.
I think it would be enough if we had joint meetings for the permit reviews.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, friends gotta go. Everybody say bye.
Hi, Brandy.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, we got just a little bit more to go on this.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think this goes right into, Pedro, what you were saying is actually the feedback on current zoning and what is creating barriers for the developers is really important. And I think as the board just said, there's all of these extra steps and layers, and is it really necessary to do that when maybe it's more efficient to hear the same proposal all at once and then provide feedback and then again, so everybody's looking at it from the same perspective, same meeting, but different hats and perspectives, so, yeah, as well as the housing goals through the changes.
Yeah, you know, like when we're reviewing, we have people to come before us so that we can give you a recommendation.
Yeah.
Well, can't we just give it to you while we're here?
Well, one of the problems with that is I've seen is when we're recommending to you, the presentation that's given to us is abridged. So we don't really see the entire project.
That's a big.
And when I watch your meetings, I say, oh, is this the same project?
That's another part.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, they'll go to you and you'll give them feedback and then they'll show up with your feedback at our meeting.
And then they'll say, well, you know, for us, it's only a recommendation. They're not gonna spend an hour with a presentation.
Right,
And,
exactly.
yeah.
But how many, does this mean that everybody's going to a meeting? I mean, I just wonder about the time that's involved in all of this. I think it's great.
No, we pick and choose, we can't all be at every meeting, although we try.
The planning board would bring dinner one time and then we'll bring it the next.
It's like this, it's not like.
Well,
It's open for review and, you know, when we're after 6 months, if this is working and it's really liking it, that's great.
but what we've done before is we try to figure out, okay, if it's gonna be an hour, we need. The first hour of the planning board meeting would be joint, or the select board meeting, and then we'd be done, let's say we leave and you continue your meeting. I mean, we just try to use our time wisely. Not Lieutenant.
Yeah, the good part here, this third part of the strategic priority. I mean, if we can do anything to promote and prioritize the, even existing lots that have development on them along Main Street that have municipal services already there. And it does, you know, it saves money for everybody and it keeps our open spaces open.
Mhm.
Keeps the land out in the further reaches of town when we develop.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time. We'd love to see more development along Main Street, along State Road. I mean, we rezoned State Road for that purpose. And then heading that out of town on Stockbridge Road, I mean, there's so many lots that have small development, something that doesn't make sense. Let's promote whatever we can do.
Excellent.
Okay, going into, and that leads into the public-private partnership opportunities of collaborating with the regional organization to promote workforce housing and then remain active with Simon's Rock and other parcels for potential redevelopment.
Now,
Well,
But
would this include, you know, something analogous to what was done in, with the Houstonic School and trying to identify a property either owned by the town or perhaps privately owned, that there's a collective view that it's ripe for development of some type of housing, sort of using that, sort of push that out, to the development community as an opportunity that it makes sense from the town's perspective. Is that concept included in what we're talking about here?
I think it could be. I mean, these are things that these boards have put on this list, so.
Yeah.
I think we're looking as much to you for guidance as to what that means.
Yeah, I think just also making sure, again, going back to the barriers and making sure that if we're gonna be looking at zoning and we're looking at essential workforce housing and trying to get more feedback as to where people are finding challenges, I think this is a good opportunity. An area for it is just looking at those parcels and what the potentials are and at least allowing some opportunity for just not saying no, but maybe exploring a maybe. And if there are zoning restrictions that prevent it from even exploring a maybe. I think that's something that we need to. There may be more innovation available for redevelopment opportunities and not redevelopment and development, so.
So when did we start to include Simon's Rock? I remember a bit ago, it was, at least when they talked about being in the school, it was like, no, we're not gonna even consider that.
But we can't, they were using it, but when they closed is when that went on there. It's almost immediately after they closed.
Well, I don't understand what you said. What do you say?
So we started considering Simon's Rock when it became available.
I must have missed that, okay? 'Cause I thought, personally, I thought you were dead set against, it, especially being in the school.
No, we're not saying,
We're not saying for us to take it over or anything, it's just trying to help promote something to happen there, development of some.
It's a great idea, but I just know it wasn't such a great idea 6 months ago.
I'm
That's all.
not sure when it wasn't a great idea, I think it always was.
I have to disagree with you, Steve.
but how does this relate? We're talking about Simon's Rock here, but well, also that's the next thing we're talking about as well
Yes,
on our agenda.
yes, in a different capacity, yeah.
So,
Kristen, you have a note on the possible mass grant urban land use program? Just maybe briefly just say what possibilities you have?
Liz and I have been talking to Mass Development, which is a organization, quasi. State organization that can help municipalities with. Development sites in their town to realize development, and we've been thinking about ways to potentially activate some ideas for that campus. Just leave it at that. It's essentially an intense design. Market feasibility, not competition, and it's an intensive brain dump of ideas.
Who participates?
We're not sure yet. It's part of this discussion. I guess that's the ULI.
typically it's a public, it's almost like a visioning exercise for a parcel. And what could be potentially what the community would like to see, and it's not putting any restrictions on a property, it's just, like Chris said, a brain dump, like just a brainstorming session of what would you like to see there, and what do you not wanna see there? And,
Typically, the ULI panels they're comprised of volunteer architects, planners, financial people. Professionals who do this,
And-
in their regular life, and they study it for a period of time, and then they have an intense day-long session with the public to go through what it actually is about.
So this is an exercise that is done through the Commonwealth, through Mass Development. And so Chris and I have just had discussions as to, if that is an option that we could have in the wings waiting in case that is needed. Or that it is something that the community is interested in exploring. So we've had that's all it is just, we've just had initial conversations, which Mass Development said that this is something that could potentially be an option.
So we're not waiting for just a developer to show up. We actually have a more well-developed sense of what we like to see.
Yeah, visioning plan, kind of.
Wait,
Mass development on a bank account.
I think it sounds similar to like what the HIC did for the Hoosie School, basically like a charrette, and ended up being one of the architects that were at it. Worked with a contractor to make it happen, right? And that's kind of the hope with this, is publicity, getting people excited about it and the word out. Yeah.
Okay, again, it's not anything set in stone, we
Yeah.
just had a conversation to see if this is something that we could be eligible for, and that's all, so, yeah.
So,
these conversations a lot about like removing the roadblocks to development. And we come up against it within the board. And then, of course, we come up against it within the community, like in order for development to be very easy, we have to get buy-in from the community. And because it would be very easy to change, zoning regulations to make things by right, which it will encourage development, because then they don't have the doubt whether or not their project is going to be happen, as long as they meet the whatever criteria. And the criteria is appealing, then, makes it a lot easier. But like now, like so much of it is special permit, which gives them doubt, right? And we've talked about this a lot within our board, and I mean, and within the board, we come up against that, we're not all on the same page with how much we want to remove the things that are like slowing the development down. And I think within the town, we're probably there as well, not wanting to remove all of what we see as the guardrails. And, because people tend to go to the worst, right, in their minds of what could happen. And, and so when we made zoning changes, we made it in like these small areas, right? And so like we're not able to do spot zoning, so we can't just zone like, okay, like we want this property to be able, we get buy-in from the community, whatever, like. can't just really do that property, you have to do at least, some sort of. Something that's reasonable, hence some of our overlay districts but. Even those are somewhat contentious once you have a development come in, with abutters and then with also other, concerned community members, and so. I mean, I think part of it is like, we have to have these bigger conversations if we really, like, how much buy-in do we have to really develop workforce housing, beyond the financial part, because of where it's gonna go. If it's gonna be on places that make sense in the corridor where we have all the infrastructure and, that can handle more density.
I mean, I think what you're getting at is that we've liberated or liberalized our zoning, I think, tremendously over the last 10 years. But you're just never gonna get first development. I can rattle off projects that have been done that are great, and then projects that are just awful.
Yeah.
You have no control over that.
Right.
Unless we live in a completely different society where the people sitting at these tables run the show, then that's the risk we're gonna take. That's just the way it is.
The other part about that is, the by right is always wonderful until it's proposed. And then people wanna have a say in it because it's in their neighborhood, and they don't. And they don't understand why they don't, and we always refer them to whatever town meeting that happened, which many times they weren't at.
That's a whole other
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
That's, sometimes what goes by right is great, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not always terrible.
oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's just, we can't sit around and not let anything happen, because then we turn into a silo,
Yeah,
and we have even more fiscal problems.
Yep.
But the risk.
Right, flipping to page 5, under sustainability, and environment is, the first item is creating a plan for future parcel after testing report has been finalized for Reed Cleaners property.
Any update?
Last fall, we removed quite a bit of contaminated material. And recapped the site, and we will be doing additional testing under the latest EPA grant. To see just how much we got, how successful we were, and what else might need to be done. Just as a reminder, dry cleaning fluid sinks in the water table, and so once it goes, it's tough to catch and it's tough to remediate. So we're seeing just how much is left over the next probably year or so. But it is a town it is a parcel that the town could have available for redevelopment. And, it is something that these boards may wish to discuss as part of your envision in joint meetings.
It's my understanding that the focus of the contamination was in the back of the building.
That's where the contamination occurred.
And it's moving towards the river.
So under the building itself, we're good.
No, it's in the water table, which generally goes towards the river. The plume is defined horizontally and vertically as best we can tell.
The last I heard about this, the plume didn't go across the street. It just traveled horizontally towards the post office.
It's just across Main Street, like yeah, there's wells on the other side of Main Street that just picked it up, just a little bit.
Yeah, and this is the type of thing where until the property, I won't say we should wait till the property's clean, but we're not gonna have long discussions now about this because there's properties, because there's much more important things to do. This
We
could be
could,
years. We could.
outlaw tearing the building down and putting parking on that. Just put that out.
This is why we highlighted this conversation during, is because, we're looking at seasonal communities and zoning and economic development and all of those things And having that discussion to put the community in place for success, especially the downtown core area. This is something that we need to talk about, is what you do want and what you don't want. In that downtown gateway area, when you come up onto actual Main Street, you're gonna see that parcel coming up, and what do you wanna see?
Well, I'll tell you this, for fiscally,
And
I can give you the data on it. Parking lots are like fiscal nightmares.
I mean, what fits
Black
into,
hole.
what fits into the character of the town is a retail space on the ground floor and apartments above.
And a small tower there, 4-story tower, perfect, let's do it.
Easier said than done.
Gotta start somewhere, you know.
Yeah, Phil, go ahead and then Garfield.
Garfield's next.
Okay.
It seems like this has been going on for almost as long as the Uzi water situation. And I'm not understanding why it's taking so long. Is it because it's really not a priority, but you have groundwater seeping into a well, into other wells perhaps? And it sounds like it's right on the table, so I don't know why we're taking so forever.
It takes a long time to clean up a site. This is an incredibly complicated site. Contamination is very, very deep.
Takes a lot of money too,
It
right?
takes a lot of money, which we don't have, but we've assembled hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of EPA funds, probably close to $1 million plus to do this. So this has been a high priority, but in the past, it hasn't happened as often lately, but people would call and say, what's with that vacant building? Who owns it? Can I buy it? And then people realize the black hole that they're looking into in terms of millions of dollars of liability to clean it up, and they walk away. So our perspective has been get grant funds to clean it up, and then we can position it for redevelopment, but it takes a long time. It takes a long time before people can look at it without seeing black holes.
So it's gotta be at least 5 years we're doing this. I've been on this board for 5 years. I think it's longer than that.
Working on it for at least 10.
Okay.
It's much longer than 5 years, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm worried a little bit about Rossiter Street, just to bust the leakage. And, there's one building that I'm watching.
You know, I guess, I certainly understand this is an incredibly complicated cleanup, and you've done an incredible amount of work on this. I get the sense that there was more optimism 6 to 9 months ago about about being able to put this property up for sale. And it sounds like certain things have transpired that has diminished that optimism.
No, I think we just need to get all of the information together. Like, a tremendous amount of contaminated soil has been removed.
Right.
Now we need to see just how much we got. So you have to go through another cycle of testing.
Right.
What's left? Is there a lot left? Can it be treated? Can it be closed out? This is a very strict regulatory process.
Now, are we in the midst of that testing right now? I mean, is there testing results that we're waiting on, or, because I thought that, again, I really don't want to put any words in your mouth, but I thought that there was an optimism that another final round of tests over the last several months might get us to some kind of conclusion.
We closed out the cleanup grant towards the end of December. Did some additional rounds of tests, which are now being assembled, and we have another EPA grant that Liz and I are working on selecting a contractor to even continue it further. So I don't have all the answers for you yet. It's all very, very high priority, you know.
Okay, all right, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just have one other thing, and I don't know if it's even possible, just a thought came in my head. Is there any way we can offer a contractor or something, a cleanup, and then if you put something there, you have an exemption for a year or something with your tax or something? I don't know if, I wouldn't bother myself because we're getting something useful. We're finally getting this cleaned. I don't know if that's a possibility, but it can certainly incentivize someone to do some work if you know you're gonna get a bill there and not have to pay your tax for a year.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I mean, municipalities like towns that are incorporated like Great Barrington have limited tools in terms of tax relief for like that, like cities can grant tax exemptions. There are some things that can happen, whether it's tax exemptions or cash, the town put cash into, essentially into Housatonic School. Through CPA and through other funds. So there are incentives is a great idea.
So one more thing, just while we're waiting, we're spending time here, basically, I'm just thinking about those two spaces, the reed cleaners and the adjacent. What, we don't have, the graphics are awful. I mean, one side is just random, I don't know who put stuff up, but that has no style or look or feel, there's no messaging, it's just chaos, and then we have a big plus sign. And why don't we use those windows? Can we use those windows to signal what we're doing or make it more interesting or compelling? Because it's sitting there, we can't develop it, but we can at least.
Yeah.
Well, on behalf of the design advisory committee, but we're not the leaders on this, and I'd like to be able to talk to people about what it looks like.
One reason we could try to keep, as you're looking at it, the left-hand window clear is because the post office employees can't see out when they're coming out the driveway. We try to leave that one
Oh,
clear.
but you should see what we did for the Voice Freedom.
Just
Center.
saying.
It kept a lot of light on the inside of the building.
Yeah, you can see through.
Posters down and not allow anybody to post any new.
It could do. There's
Well,
also.
why don't we just talk offline and talk about it?
Uh-huh.
Move ahead.
Promote the thing. What the fact that.
The next is the open space and recreation plan, which.
In final development, so the planning board has been discussing it and we'll see it again on the 11th. The select board, I think we'll see it on the 15th. Hopefully for final review and hopefully endorsement. The Concom is
File for grants. Yeah.
Yeah. Next is the Cook's Garage down in economic development, so.
So as was alluded to, I think Eric said the Stock Improvement Committee did some direct work on 426 Park Street. Planning board discussed it, maybe I think we discussed it with the select board last year. We just haven't been able to advance this, to actually write in the RFP to get it out there, but we have all the information to do it for the board, so. I think we could draft one and have it ready for the board, for the select board to review.
That'd be great.
So the thing with this property is gonna come out when the redevelopment discussion starts, is parking.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out how to be creative, more lenient with the way we think about where cars should go, I think. Because there's no room to put the cars there. But there's plenty of room along the street, for example, where people can do on street parking, so forth, anyway. It shouldn't be, my point is that parking should not be an impediment to somebody going in there and putting something nice in.
Can't park on the bridge, so.
Thanks, Tom.
On-street parking is another good property problem.
Good point, which parts it needs.
So.
The next is the sign bylaw, which actually is very relevant, for zoning, that there are ways that need to possibly simplify the process, as well as opportunities for maybe self-management versus staff enforcement, which is very limited and restricted, that in what opportunities or what types of signs, or flag signs versus open, or feather signs versus open flags, and what size open flags, and temporary signs, and special event signs, and lawn signs, and all of the wonderful ways that people sign in the world, to try to promote it. This is something that definitely is very relevant to economic development. That it can stifle it, can hinder it, but also as a way to then create a brand for the community in the sense of design and styles, colors, things that it doesn't prohibit the advertisement of businesses and wayfinding and other things like that, but definitely something that needs to be discussed as to what the community really wants moving forward and how the look and feel, but also is it capable, is it possible for us to manage it on a staffing level? The expectations, so I think that was really the discussion back in December.
It was
It was,
reasonable bylaw that can have enforcement.
right,
You can have the best bylaw in the world, but you can't enforce
I
it.
mean, what's wrong with the kernel?
Have
you read it?
I have not, but it's like any other sign bylaws that I actually have the joy of enforcing. It is very difficult to manage and it pops up and it's like little fires everywhere. And most towns that have a very robust sign bylaw actually have a dedicated individual employee for just signs.
All right, here's a
So-
suggestion. So we have a committee in this town that has absolutely no authority whatsoever. And they're the only committee in town that looks at signs. So why don't we develop a way to give them the authority to be the owners of the sign bylaw? And that way they'll have something really that they can sink their teeth into. You'll likely get more enrollment in the committee and it'll be a useful part of the town instead of something that just creates another step in the process for
That's the
development.
last thing that advisory committee wants to do, one
Well,
more.
but you know what, if you make,
No, but that-
give it teeth,
No,
more
it-
people
it's-
might be interested.
But in the years ago, the select board were the enforcement agency. It didn't work well. They didn't want to do it, but at least it became public and people saw what was being approved and not approved. Now, things just pop up. No one knows if they're approved or not, and
But this is my point, this
Yeah.
committee, which I'll say it out loud, I tried to disband it because I thought it was terrible for development. Because people would come, we'd sit there and give them free design advice and then they could do whatever they wanted, because we had no teeth. But we look at the signs all the time, it's the only committee that looks at signs, why not give them the authority,
let's look into all of this.
And not to mention the fact that the OSRP talks about signage for all of our resources, our open space resources, our recreational parks. We're talking about the need to do it in Spanish as well as in English. We're looking at all of that, and that's more signage. Or the master plan from 2013 was talking about identifying historic elements downtown, et cetera, and that hasn't happened. So there's hunger for signs and also fear of signs. So something has to be done.
Yeah, there are communities that, because it's so congested, or that there's a very sensitive, historic sensitive area that it limits within the actual special permits how many signs and even window signs and advertisements, no neon signs, these kinds of things. And it is, their special permit is actually contingent upon their compliance. And then also that there's an overlap that their business licenses that they have, so if it's a restaurant or any type of, like a package store or, a lodging house or anything, those licenses could be contingent upon the compliance of the special permit. So, and it's constantly looked at every 2 to 5 years. So there could be mechanisms in there that could assist, and that's what I mean for almost self-management. Is that there are stipulations and conditions placed upon the parcel or the owner of the special permit that could assist with relieving staff and even the boards as much, so.
All right, there's a question.
Yeah.
Okay, parking strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah.
That's how we skip over this.
Yeah.
Decal program has gotta be looked into.
Yep.
You guys need money, you can raise money. Maybe your citizens get it for free, but people who come here, they need to pay to park at Mansfield. If they go to, I don't know, well, wherever else they go, if they go to Old Meads Park, they need to pay to park there. If you wanna park downtown, they need to pay it, and it's what, a $20 decal, whatever, maybe you can generate $15,000-$30,000 a year, who knows? I'm sure, Liz, maybe you have some experience on the Cape with parking decals.
About 8 years in the town of Barrington.
So let's do it, why not, what is the big deal?
That's right. saying about the.
What is the big deal? I don't understand what the big. deal
Well,
is.
who's the enforcement authority of the police?
I don't.
Third-party
Figure it out.
vendors
It could
that-
potentially, it could be
Well,
for itself.
no, figuring it out is not the answer. If you're hiring someone to be the enforcement, you're paying them 30,000 to bring in 20. I don't have to be a mathematician to know your first argument that it's gonna bring in money isn't gonna work.
Well, we have a parking attendant now, a parking ticket person now.
Until the end of the month.
Yes.
So that job could probably pay for itself.
There's also third-party vendors that have equipment that reduce the amount of human labor needed. You can actually just have license plate readers, so it's
Ben
automatically
said
done.
that, not me.
Yeah.
To reduce human labor.
We're talking about not plowing the sidewalks, this is where we are.
No, seriously, I mean, okay.
Are we trying to reduce, are we trying to generate revenue or
Yes.
control the number of people
Yes.
trying to park? in?
Oh, trying to revenue.
That's, it's,
So
there's
if,
no reason, listen, car parking is the only form of transportation. That is not paid for. Airplanes have to pay to park, trains have to pay to park, every other form of, there are 8 parking spots for every car in this country. Picture that, okay? And we don't charge for it, why not? It's ridiculous.
It is the normal thing to pay for parking now, and that.
It's
we don't-
not
I mean,
uncommon.
It's not uncommon, I mean, when I drive around and pay for parking constantly.
I certainly agree with that. I also do agree with Steve's point that in a town our size, and given the needs to enforce it that we really don't have right now.
But we should look into it, because I've been to Southampton, I've been to East Hampton, I've been to they all have parking. I have to buy a decal parking there. You go to the Cape, you gotta buy decal park there. Those towns aren't bigger than ours.
Yeah.
They all,
I certainly agree with you with respect to the tightly controlled area of Lake Mansfield, but I'm historically that we've been told that we can't do that at Lake Mansfield.
you can't do Lake Mansfield, but I do see it as an opportunity to actually involve the planning board in shaping, and there is overlap. There's overlap with actually signage, with wayfinding signage, there's branding, there's economic development with it. But I have to say if you're gonna have it, you have to enforce it in order for it to work. And typically you do an in-house enforcement. And there's gonna be tickets, but there's strategies that can assist for seasonal versus seasonal parking, paid parking. And the rates changing versus the demand. So there is a lot of opportunity for it, but it does require planning. You can't just slap up signs and try it out. Really, there's a science behind it. And for the demand, but also the impacts of the businesses, and whether it be 2 hour versus 3 hours, if it's gonna give people enough time to do some shopping and go to a show and go out to dinner or and stay, and all of those other components. So, and you can do it layered as well, like there can be for special events, actual paid parking for special events, that could be a trial. We had demands with the tent back here, and there was parking that they used the parking here at town hall. Well, we could have a fee that's generated and those kinds of small little baby steps while we're working on a larger scale project. So yeah, there are opportunities.
So a couple things. One is you don't want to discourage people from coming downtown. Two, which will drive you crazy, because I've said it before, I drive you crazy with this. Is a parking problem having open spaces and no one shopping, or is it having no open spaces?
having a parking problem is a good thing.
Oh, that's my point.
We had it this whole weekend.
Yes, I don't see a problem. Towns our size would love to have the problem that we have, that there's too many people downtown.
So I certainly agree that it should be looked at and that new technology should be looked at. But I think it's easy for me to say that. I think I'm expecting the town staff would say it requires resources to do all that work to evaluate it and to, come back with a recommended plan. And the question is, do we have those resources? And the sense I have is they're not readily available.
Not at this time, and I do recommend that we do have a third party. I know there was studies in the past, and we can look at those to see what is relevant for today. But there's grant opportunities, that we can look at, I'm sorry.
Technical assistance from here, you see.
Yeah, but getting it up and running and then figuring out the cost analysis for that, sustaining, even if it's a seasonal position that we just have for the summer months, if we implement something for enforcement from, let's say, the third week of June to Indigenous Peoples' Day or something, that window of time that we can try out and see and yeah, but it is something that would take a little bit, definitely would take time.
And
to
do we have a
do it
sense
right.
that our local, primarily our downtown businesses, so let's say downtown of Housatonic and Great Barrington, would they support something like this?
This is where we would have to have a updated analysis and outreach on proposals, and so that's why even though the study might be 4 or 5 years old, is it right? It's 4 to 5 years, the last one.
It's longer than that.
Is it longer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so typically if it's not 5 or less years, then you gotta start all over, because the customer base, the community has changed in 5 years. We were in the thick of COVID 5 years ago, so the community has completely changed. The way that people drive, the way that people actually utilize services has changed drastically. So you really should have an updated, the businesses even, and if they have incentives for utilizing local transit versus actually having car share programs, and if there's bike incentives like that that we can look at. So there's a lot more for parking than just, again, slapping up some signs and hiring somebody to enforce it.
Yeah, I mean, I think as someone who works downtown. I think one of the biggest benefits, this is such an opportunity to redefine the way that parking is actually organized within the town. I think just beyond that, the revenue stream aspect of it, that finding a way for people who work downtown to have a way to park without having to worry about moving their car and getting a ticket. Most of the people I know who get tickets are people who are working downtown and have to stay for a whole shift. There's very few parking spots that allow them to actually stay in that spot for their entire shift without having to go and move their car. And the park attendants, when they are there, are very good about getting you within, let's say, 10 minutes if you have not moved your car. And it feels like we're penalizing the people who kind of keep the town running with the current system. And so it's like we have a way of getting permits for employees in downtowns, for Great Barrington residents, to say maybe certain lots are free for people who work, just to kind of actually like give some structure to this. But also, boy, we need revenue stream from our tourism that coming into town. We do not have it. Like, we need to find a way to bring in money from the tourism industry rather than just the property taxes. And I think this seems like the best path. It's gonna be a bunch of work, but I think it will ultimately make the downtown experience better.
So back in 2016, 17, the town of Barnstable solicited Nelson Nygaard, or they put out an RFP and they went into contract with Nelson Nygaard, and that cost around $70,000 for an actual parking implementation strategy that did multiple different corridors within downtown Hyannis. So, and this is about the same vicinity between Great Barrington and Housatonic, that there could be 2 villages that could be within the RFP that's in the study to see where the demands are and the adjustments and available parking. But they do a boots on the ground analysis. They listen to the community as to when parking demands are the highest versus even weather conditions and everything on how it actually, that's what these consultants do, is listen to the community, and then they go out and do the research, and then they put together a strategy on how to implement it, and also what revenue sources and even the cost of potential rates that you can charge. Even enforcement, whether it be LPR that you put on the vehicles, or even technology that you have enough staff to support the enforcement, stickers, the cost of that. So it's a pretty comprehensive, but it was 10 years ago and it was $70,000. I do not have an updated number, but that is something that we could put in at least the capital improvement plan, and putting funding and looking at grant opportunities for that.
What was the return on investment?
They didn't implement it. Because the community, because there was a lot of discussion that downtown corridor in Hyannis actually is two lanes one way. And there was a lot of speeding, there's schools involved too, it was, and the community could not decide whether they wanted to switch it back to a two-way street or keep it one way. And they still haven't figured that out, so to date. So.
So I fully appreciate what Ben was saying and what you're saying is that these are all very good ideas and there's a lot of ways parking can be improved, but well, after listening to all of this, I feel pretty strong we cannot look at this as a revenue generator on a net basis. It just, when you factor in the cost of all this.
I don't know how you can say that if you don't know how much revenue it will generate.
Well, and also factoring in, you know, I think the legitimate resistance from local businesses about what we might charge for this parking and what that might do to, you know, daily tourism in and out of the town. Look, I agree with you. I'm making up numbers, Pedro. I obviously, I would love to see an analysis to make that assessment on that basis. But I'm just chiming in. I don't see how this gets to be revenue positive when you factor.
I
all
don't
the
see
costs.
what problem it'll cause to the local business. There's, you know, local businesses on Railroad Street, they got cars parked in front of them right now. All day long,
Well, I'm putting words in their mouth. A lot of
you
them
know,
might say, well, if you're charging too much on parking, people won't come to Great Barrington, they'll go to some other town.
you can send them straight through, that's so
Right.
much data on this, you have no
Yeah.
idea.
I mean, Phil, I think it's a fair point, because I think, I agree with you that there's the data that backs up that it doesn't ultimately pan out, but it will be something that we've started the process to convince people of that. But one other thing that I would like to point out too, just that, we've talked about tourists, visitors and employees, but there's residents downtown as well who rely on the parking. Right now, the residents of Barrington House lost their parking for the summer because that becomes outdoor seating, so they have to kind of rely on street parking. There's only a certain number of 20-hour spots. So if we want to make this an actually livable downtown, this is going to be an important part of that.
Well, I agree. I totally agree with that. There's a big, I'll call livability issue in all this. It's very important. I'm just saying that's an investment in our town. This is not going to be something that's generating revenue on a net basis. That's all I'm trying to say. And I'll shut up.
But one more idea to maybe pursue is, so I've looked at the parking plan that was done here about 10 years ago, whatever. And I counted the number of spots in town. We got close to 1,000 spots from the circle to liquor store where people can park. Our big problem is that close to 60% of those spots are in private lots. So why can't we continue push and push and push to leverage those lots somehow?
Well, that I agree with 100%.
And those lots, by the way, and, you know, sorry, the most of those lots, you know, the one across the street, the one at the church, you know, most of those lots are empty all day. The lots that, you know, obviously the lot behind the Berkshire block is empty all day too. We need to find a way to leverage it. It's land that's just sitting there, you know, and it's not serving us.
Let's move ahead.
Yeah, the next is small business assistance and job creation of improving the permitting process. We talked about that a little bit of streamlining the permitting process, at least for special permits. Then creating user-friendly guides, evaluating tools from various perspectives, getting ongoing, having ongoing feedback being collected or at least solicited is really important. And then making sure that that feedback is incorporated into the decision or at least considered for that. So that is something that that the select board during their in their December meeting had identified as areas of looking at and ways to improve. So yeah. So I think like even outdoor seating would be like a good example of, is there restrictions on zoning that limits outdoor seating and what type of seating or other things, and what is the permitting process for that from start to finish, and kind of looking at the whole process for
There are
it.
certainly, I think, some uses that would be discuss that would have extensive permitting requirements. That I think we can streamline into the clients, I think.
So, I know it's not on really here listed, but it's, but the, Cyril School is something that the select board has talked about having a lot of, restrictions on it, prohibiting, development or encouraging it, I think this is a good way to segue into talking about that with the select board on, and with the planning board on what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not.
I was gonna let you do it at the end, but I'll let you do it now.
Yeah, so I didn't know when it would fit in, but I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
as I mentioned before, I'd love to, have us do some type of assessment or reassessment of our limitation on hotels. Right now, getting it right, we have a basically limitation of 45 rooms for a new hotel, other than an allowance for a larger hotel, provided that it's a historic preservation project, which is essentially what we thought we had with Searle School. My sense is, a little bit of research is that, there, new hotels today are built 60, 70, 80 rooms, just to get the types of returns or to pencil out the way private investors are expecting. And those are the types of hotels that have been developed north of us, in Central Berkshire and north of us. And so apart from the pros and cons of those buildings aesthetically, that's sort of how the hotels are developed these days. So this is our 45 room limit, I believe, is from 2008. My view is we have essentially banned hotel development in our town. And just from a revenue perspective, I think it's something that we really should reconsider. If we made that change, I have no intel on whether or not that would sort of open up the floodgates for hotel development. I really have no insight into that, but I think we should consider being a little more flexible on that front, just to, be potentially have some good outcomes for the town.
So I wonder where the origins of that is, because so with hotel occupancy, right? That they're only 100% occupied during a very short periods within the year. And so I don't know. I don't know the hotel business.
Well, I can tell you from my professional practice that he's right on.
No, I get that.
Building won't look at them if you can limit it to 45 feet.
And can I just tell you, Jeremy, what I think the origin was? If my memory serves me correct, well before my time on here. There were no Airbnbs then, there were bed and breakfasts. The bed and breakfasts were all owned by local people.
And they wanted to protect that.
They wanted to protect that.
That business, and that's
Now,
what
Jonathan may remember that.
I brought that up, the 45 rooms. And the reason was because the national chains of motels all required a minimum of like 47 rooms. And we didn't want those. And that's why that's there.
Okay.
And so that's helping to protect the businesses that already exist, right?
And the Airbnbs, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
yeah, it was bed and breakfast back then. It wasn't
So,
Airbnbs.
and so I think there's a lot of consequences, right, to existing businesses in the town, if. We made these changes, a lot of the zoning for the same reason for commercial spaces, because we're trying to keep out the big chains and.
But the big chains are already here.
Well.
A big change right here.
Well, there's a Holiday Inn Express, there's a
I know, well,
Fairfield. So they're already here. I don't know what you're keeping out.
okay, but I mean, I've just been to a lot of other communities and they look a lot different than ours. And so it's what do you want? I mean, a lot of zoning, zoning is restricted. That's the whole point, right? And so, I'm just being elected member, but what does the community really want? What does the community want the town to look like? And then what does that do to the community? So I think we need to look at both things, right? If the community doesn't have a certain amount of growth, then the community's gonna die, and then it's gonna look, we have a lot of examples around what that looks like. But, you know, unchecked development, and this is what a lot of people are scared of, and then we have a lot of examples of what that looks like.
Yeah, but I don't think Phil's proposing a 500-room hotel.
right.
By right, yeah. And, you know, we also have taxes that we collect if we have more rooms. And when we're talking about increased revenue,
But you also have to look at what is where, you know, there's one way to look at it, there's unlimited demand for these rooms. But is it?
not my
Is the
problem. If
demand-
someone wants to come in and do
Well,
it, then they
I-
must have a business plan.
But we have a lot of this, oh, let's just the market decide it, right? And so, but that leads to like, you know, like unsuccessful development. And to vacant properties
But
and,
what does that matter to you?
well, it matters to me because this is my town.
But if somebody comes in and wants to invest in your town, and you don't want them to do it because.
No, but I think,
Because they're gonna fail, I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
well, if we know they're gonna fail.
How do you know that? You don't know.
Well-
Listen, anecdotally, this weekend, I volunteered at Biff. And I was driving people around. And it was, I can't tell you, a huge opportunity, just this weekend.
I know, but that's,
I was driving to Stockbridge,
Yeah.
back to Egremont,
And I-
up to
and I get
Stockbridge,
it.
I drove up to Lennox,
and
and
this,
nobody can stay in.
A lot of
town.
hotel.
no, but that's what, and
Nobody
you're
can
right.
stay here and walk around and go to the.
Jeremy, you don't know how
Stay open till one.
I know, but we should, so like, if we're really gonna have this discussion, we need to like invite all of the industry in the area.
Why?
To talk about how, like, what kind of numbers keeps their business.
But why is it,
Solve it.
it's not, that's not the
See,
whole.
this doesn't make sense to me. What happens,
Yeah,
we'll have a permit and people will say that, well, their business is gonna fail. Well, they have the money, they have a business plan. Why is it us to make the final decision?
Because
There is.
Well,
We need to move this
Yeah,
along,
look,
but
can I?
Yeah,
can I-
go ahead.
can I-
We'll let Phil
I think
finish.
this is great. I wasn't expecting everyone to say yes, and we're done tonight, okay?
you told me we were gonna vote on it tonight.
No, so I think Jeremy's points are valid, Pedro's comments are valid, they're more valid because I agree with them, but I just think I think it's an important topic, we should have an assessment and have all the opinions and look at all the considerations and consider a change. So I'm not trying to short
Well,
circuit.
I'll tell you this, Phil, you can help me get this board to talk about it, because I brought this up several times to this board, it's not.
Ah.
I don't remember. Well, it's convenient before now.
I'm just saying.
Well,
I just-
what I think we're asking you is to, at least two of us are asking you to talk about it.
Three of you, three of you, three.
Talk about topic.
Throw my 2 cents in that, we're a small town and I think some people are, and you hear are, against it even growing even more.
Gotta find
We're
revenues.
talking about.
Right, right, I understand that, but I'm just saying.
Making $15,000 off of a net 15,000 or 20, or I'm making up numbers on the parking permits. I mean, when you read the budget, committee meetings in Lennox, you know, it's all about, in Stockbridge, it's all about, we've got these huge piles of money coming in from Maribel and Canyon Ranch. And even the Red Line Inn, and it's a huge revenue generator, so.
And
that's
those
all.
towns aren't growing
Something's wrong.
exponentially, you know, I don't see Stockbridge like
Yeah.
exploding the population.
Okay, so it's, all right, so
But
hopefully
I
we
think,
can talk
but I
about
think
it.
also bringing those people in and talking to them about.
We're gonna leave that up to you guys. Let's move ahead.
Because I don't think it's as rosy as it appears from the outside.
Right.
And I know, you know, it's not as easy as you would think. And so.
Sure isn't if you have a limit.
I think the discussion is really good, but I think we should talk to them about like, what does it look like? What does the industry really look at?
Okay, let's move ahead. We'll leave that to the planning board.
Yeah, so, lastly, we have the master plan, so that's actually part of it too, which. Updating the master plan and then, receiving updates on the progress of the plan update, as you know, that was part of. At least, phase one visioning was, slated for the town meeting, funding for it, which did not pass. But it is still a priority, and at least on current priority that we can discuss later, but we can look at grant opportunities for funding at least phase one that can continue if the boards choose so. And then again, piggybacking on a common theme that you've heard tonight is the regulatory process and the performance of examining the special permit process, looking at conditions placed on parcel usage, and monitoring the enforcement of those special permits.
There you go.
I think both boards get very frustrated when you have very detailed special permit conditions, and when it's built, none of those are enforced. Maybe some are unenforceable, but maybe getting the building inspector involved in listening to us while we're putting these conditions on and getting input. Something, we spend a lot of times, you more than us, on special permits. And they need to be enforced, but if they're unenforceable, then we don't know
Well, you know who can help enforce? And who's helping enforce the special permit right now, and the neighbor street is people who live there.
Yep.
So somehow we can leverage.
Leverage.
You know, the people who live here to enforce these things, if they care enough about what's going on.
it, whether you care.
I think the Searle School special permit is now 10 years old. There's something that could be withdrawn, like that.
Can be on our agenda soon. Okay, let's move ahead.
Can I say something about
Of course.
master plan? I think it's really important, and I'm sorry, it's number 3 on the strategy. I just want to say that. For the record. Could you repeat that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I need water.
What would you say?
I'm just saying, I wanted to say something about the master plan before we all walk away from it, because I think it's incredibly important. And I'm sorry that it's number 3 on the list. That's all, because I think it's a good way for the community to come together, talk about some big key issues and talk about the future. And I would love to see that happen.
It's number one on, the highway.
Yes,
So it's number one on our list.
that's right.
Which makes sense.
I'm sorry, I don't do that, I don't, okay.
It's something definitely, I think, as the board, as we continue reviewing the strategic priorities, as you know, it was on my capital improvement priority list. And I do see it as a mechanism, and we've had discussions in joint meetings, even with the finance committee before, the articles were being recommended or not recommended, is that the master plan is a mechanism, whether people believe it or not, it is actually proven. It is a mechanism for economic development and for investors to look at a master plan that is updated and we'll see that, oh, this community, they know what they want. I can bring that to the table. They're accepting it. They're putting things into place. And so I still feel very strongly that it is an opportunity that should not be left to the side. It needs to be constantly churning. As I said, communities change, they evolve very quickly within a moment's notice, and that master plan should be really reflective of the community today, not 15, 20 years ago. The whole demographics, the whole values of a community can change, and master plans really need to be reflective of that.
We write it like it was done before with some community citizens as well, with citizens.
Sorry,
Well, we'll write the master plan as we did before with citizens.
that's the only way it can actually be adopted and accepted is through a very community-based grassroots level, so yes.
You know, I have an interest in the master.
There's been so much change since 2013, she said.
That's all.
So speaking of that, so, and I think Emily, is Emily
Hi, come
on the
on.
panel? So
Yes,
great,
yes,
thank you. Okay, so, going into, are you,
Yes, we're ready to go into the discussion of Simon's Rockets.
Okay. all right, so we had talked about it a little bit, earlier, but this item here, so there are in the packet, included are all of the assessors field cards for every single parcel that is within the actual campus of Simon's Rock. There was, it was revealed between, Rayo, our new finance committee member, and Phil. They had identified an opportunity that could be explored that the parcel could go from a nonprofit to back onto the tax roll sooner rather than later. The concerns, though, are that the field cards are very out of date. And it will take a considerable amount of time to get those updated. The deadline for getting it on the tax rolls for the next FY 27 bills is actually by July 1st. So we have less than a month to get this up on the tax rolls, if that is something that the board decides on. Now, the estimated value, I believe, is around 63, according to the current field cards, is around $63 million of value. But again, that is based upon data that is been identified by our assessor as extremely out of date. And she can explain a little bit more examples as on that. So Phil and I have had discussions on opportunities that may be considered, but it is gonna be a very hard stretch for town staff in its current capacity to achieve getting it on the tax rolls before by July 1st, and having firm data that we would feel confident standing by and standing firm, especially if that that change in the assessment was to be appealed, and we would have to stand by the data that we assess the values and put it on the tax roll for. The other caveat is that we have, if the appeal if the appeal gets approved, and we would have to give back the money that they paid, it's approximately $685,000 in overlay that we don't have currently set aside. So there's a number of things. However, this is something that I felt that I needed some guidance on from the boards on what the sentiment is for it.
Can I ask, so just looking at the first few of these property cards. If I'm looking at it right now on the far right. It says user account, and then reference, then there's an inspection date. Is that the last time somebody? If I'm reading this card right, I feel like that's the last time somebody reviewed this section, right?
Yeah, Emily, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, it's actually, I don't usually look at that. So if you actually go further down the card, there's a box that says activity information, and that's where, which just has the same date, but that's where the inspection information is. And although the assessor at the time did the inspection, the cards are still not correct. Like if you flip to like back the other side, so like for instance, this parcel ID that we're looking at, if they're in the same order as I have them, hopefully, we're starting with 84 Alford Road. It has a total of 19 cards for this one parcel ID, and only one card has a sketch. So we're only reflecting one building. So then if you look at several other cards, there's no sketches. We don't really monitor the bathrooms, the kitchens. The data that is used to build a property record card is not there. We should have a sketch, we should have square footage somewhere. And it's just like the cards are just not accurately put together.
Well, how long would it take? I won't say you, because it's not the easy to do. How long would it take to get these to be accurate so we can feel comfortable defending our decision?
Well, we would have to find a consultant that would be, if you're saying not me, then we would need time to find a consultant that would be willing to do it. And if we're talking about me,
My assumption is you don't have time to do it.
not in 3 weeks before we set out the prelims, no. If we're gonna talk about putting it on the tax rolls for FY 28, then yes. I have already talked with the building inspector and they have started providing me with all of the old plans and sketches so I can start determining which buildings belong with which lots and starting to build the property record cards the way they're supposed to be built. That is the other problem too, is the whole campus is split across 3 lots. And we have all of the buildings on one lot instead of having the correct buildings on the correct lots. Now, the problem with that is if for any reason Simon's Rock does not sell as a whole and it's each parcel sells separately, well, now we don't have the buildings on the correct lots. And then we're inaccurately assessing those lots that could be sold all separately.
Questions, comments, Bill?
So I went through the cards. I fully appreciate the complexity and I fully appreciate the work that it would take to get to accurate assessment cards for all. I think there's actually, well, there's 17 parcels and within those 17, you have sub parcels, if that's the right term. So it gets to be like more like 30, which is why it's such a voluminous printout. This started with just doing a little bit of research on this, and Rav did a great deal of work on it. A few things to highlight. If again, there's no we can put them on. There's no constraint on when we put them back on the tax roll. They have to convince the town that they're a nonprofit, and I think that's. I think it's pretty clear that they could not do that right now. I just looking at the calendar, if we don't,
Let
Yeah.
Emily answer.
if
Can
we
I just-
don't,
Emily, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just want to interject just for 1 second. So, first off, Simon's Rock is still a nonprofit. They do still have a school. The school is not here. It's not here anymore, and they're still occupying one building. Would the ATB side with them? I can't say. The ATB does their own thing. But they are still occupying one building. You can pull in, you can go in the building, and there are cars, there are still staff working. So no, they're not occupying the entire campus, but they are still occupying one building. And they are still a nonprofit. They may not meet the eligibility of occupying the entire campus for July 1st, but they are still considered a nonprofit.
from a calendar standpoint, if I have this correct, if we don't send some type of notification to Bard/Simon's Rock before the end of this month, then we cannot do anything for fiscal 27. We have to wait till fiscal 28. So what I'd like us to consider is a couple of things, but sending the letter now, doing it in a very brief format, saying this is notice that you're gonna be on the tax rolls for fiscal 27, details to follow. That's all I'm proposing that we do right now, because I agree the amount of work that's required to do the full assessment cards is not possible to do within this month. But we give ourselves an option of taking a more actionable role in fiscal 27 if we send that letter out before the end of the month. And then I'd like us to consider if we could put an aggregate assessment on this property. It's kind of obviously completely different from what we have right now, but the property is for sale right now. If we spoke with a handful of knowledgeable brokers and got a range of estimates on where the property might sell on an aggregate basis, hypothetically, I'd like us to consider putting it on the tax roll for fiscal 27 at that amount. If we, again, just sort of hypothetically, if we I agree the number on the books, you know, whatever, 63 million, all I can say is the right value is between 0 and 63. But if we put, a 10 or 20 million aggregate value on the property, I think that's based upon feedback from brokers, I think that's very defensible. And why would Simon's Rock, I think they'd be in an awkward position, because if they sued that was way too high, they'd be basically negotiating against themselves, because they're trying to sell the property right now for some higher amount. So that's a roundabout way of saying, I'm just not, given our budgetary challenges, I'm not willing to basically not tax this property all for fiscal 27. I'd like us to find some way, given the resource constraints that we very legitimately have, particularly in Emily's office, of getting to some kind of tax bill for fiscal 27. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, but I'd like to give it a try. And if we don't get a letter out by the end of the month, we're out of business on that front.
And you're willing to pay the court fees that's going to cost us and possibly lose?
Well, don't we always have the option of basically caving on a lawsuit?
I've never heard of a white flag in a lawsuit, but.
Well, we just say, we'll capitulate and won't tax you. But in my mind, if we put a value of 10 million on it, and generate some revenue for the town in fiscal 27, I don't see how they're gonna be suing Great Barrington and saying we're placing too high a value on the property. At the same time, they're trying to get probably some significantly larger amount from a buyer at the same time.
Yeah.
So, to me, they look like Pinocchio in court at that point.
I mean, they would likely sue based on their nonprofit status. Yeah, that's.
Well, I
Relax.
yeah,
You're not on board.
It's all hypothetical, but.
no, I agree.
I agree with you, but you know, that's probably what the lawsuit is, and I think we can prove that they're not functioning as a school, so. It'll be up to a judge to decide whether or not they.
Right, I agree with that. So, you know, their nonprofit status is based on educational activities. I'm not sure that what they're doing at Kirkpatrick, which is terrific for the community and people who swim, I don't know if that really qualifies.
Emily, do you have anything to add?
I don't think so, unless anyone has any questions.
I guess,
Okay, go
so,
ahead.
yeah, so just for clarification purposes, Phil. What you're asking right now is for the board to just send a notice. And so the possibilities are open, but not actually. We're still to be determined upon a lot of work that would need to be done.
That's my proposal, yeah.
Liz, is that possible to do in the legal frame? I mean, anything's possible,
Right, yeah.
but I mean, the legal framework of doing that, can you send the letter and then?
My biggest concerns is making sure that Emily has the right amount of time of assessing, of looking at each parcel and making sure that the assessor's cards, the field cards are correct, that she can legally stand behind her work. And I don't want anybody else doing it, because it's gonna be Emily that's gonna be accountable. And the town, she's gotta represent the town, it's not gonna be a consultant that does it. And she's gotta put her eyes on it for me to feel confident enough that she can stand behind those field cards when we say that it's assessed at whatever value each parcel. So, and to be honest, actually, Emily and I have not even had a discussion of actually separating out each of the parcels that aren't being used and having the one parcel that is being currently used in isolation as the nonprofit, and the rest, they have to prove that they're using it otherwise, and then we could put that on the tax roll. But it's still, I still need Emily to have time to go out. So as long as the timeline for when the taxes are assessed in between and determining that number, that's where I wanna make sure that I have her set up for success on
Yeah.
that.
But that doesn't preclude sending a letter.
No,
I'm thinking
no, but it
that-
puts us on a timeline notice, that's the
But I'm
thing,
thinking-
and
But you don't have to do the work necessarily, just tell them, we're gonna, we got our eye on you. And I'm thinking that might give them some incentive to move the property.
Right on, you have 3 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, quick question, so
And clarification for Emily as well, but, my understanding.
Just make a statement or ask me the question.
Or this, okay,
Yeah.
a question to you,
Yeah.
and then, okay. So my question is, so the law itself, or like, not the law, it's by parcel, so Simon's Rock has like, 70-some parcels and subdivisions, so once we parcel it out, there's one building that is still being used by Simon's Rock as a nonprofit, so all the other parcels is not being used as, by the nonprofit for educational reasons, so therefore it can be taxed. So there's earlier discussion about Simon's Rock being a nonprofit and such, but that only matters for the one building that it's being currently used by Simon's Rock, right, and not all the other ones. So once we parcel it out, we can tax all the other ones, just that one building, we can. So I guess that's the first one, kind of question for you. The second one is, so we send the letter, let's say we send the letter and then we do the work that we need to do and then, and stuff, so how much? Like, we have the, like, what is the sense of the amount of capacity it will take to do that? And can we, and of course, Emily has to be the one, right, doing this because like her name is behind it, but can we hire like people to assist her in doing this work to be able to meet this deadline?
Thank you. Emily, do you want to go ahead and answer those? Did you hear them?
Well, the first problem with putting all the other lots on the rolls and not the one lot or building that they're occupying is, like I said before, is the building isn't even on the correct lot. So, how they did it in the past is they were just charging everything to one lot. So all the buildings are on one lot. So now we have to separate all the buildings from that one lot, determine what building it is that is being occupied, and build a card for that. That was the first question, and then I don't remember what was the second question.
The amount, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, the considered amount of time and whether we could hire someone. We're talking about the prelims have to get done at least 2 weeks before July 1st. So you're talking we only have 2 weeks to really get all of this done on top of all the new growth I need to look at right now. And I have 3 new houses I still need to go look at. And I'm booked out for inspections. And how are we going to find a consultant in 2 weeks? I just don't think this is the fiscal year for this, but
Emily, let me ask you a question, which is what Phil has proposed, is that we send the letter out without having the cards prepared and then do that after the fact. Is that possible?
yeah, but that's playing a fishy game, but yeah, you could because
I,
cards would
the
have
one
to-
thing. Go ahead, Emily.
no, you can go.
Well, I was just gonna say, if we do that, we have to make sure that we set aside enough money in free cash in case we have to give the money back.
Okay.
Because we didn't set aside, we only set aside $200,000 in the overlay. So we would need the same amount of taxes to go back to that, basically.
I guess my question is just, as far as like sending a letter out to, in my opinion, basically put them on notice.
Yeah.
And whether not attaching, Emily or town staff to any sort of deadline to this fact, but making it known that, the town's gonna be looking into this. To put them on notice, whether that expedites anything on their side or not, but just to make it clear that they, whether they sell it next year, 2 years from now, 20 years from now, that they're not just gonna be able to sit there and have 30, 40 people going in and out of one building and having not for profit status there, I guess. So I'm looking at it not to put a giant burden and a huge time frame onto Emily and the town, but also just keeping people prepared. Cause I do feel that there has been some people in town that take advantage of the not-for-profit status and with different properties. And I do like the way it's been sorted in the past, like there's been some that have been brought on and stuff like that. So I like the idea right now of just sending some sort of letter out and whether there's the possibility of we taxing them by the end of the year or not is not my biggest concern. It's mostly because I understand the issues of the time frame and how much work this is gonna involve. But I do like the idea of making it clear to Simon's Rock or Bard that this is something that is gonna be moving forward. Whether it's in 27 or end of 27, maybe we capture the last quarter, or maybe it goes into the next year, but I do think some sort of writing would be beneficial, some sort of statement out there, but I'm saying it in the fact of not putting a timeline or hiring a company that we don't have the money to hire.
Yeah.
Also, so
That's a good point.
that's just like getting some documentation out there. It's mostly what I'm feeling.
And then just getting the process started.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's a great idea to send a letter.
Someone wanna make a motion?
May I ask a question?
Of course.
Have we consulted with an attorney on this action that we're planning to do? That there's no kickback or something that's gonna hit us that we're not anticipating? Sorry for asking this question, I'm just saying.
No, it's a valid question. We typically do send it to the town attorney for a review once it's drafted, so.
That's what I'm hearing in my mind, so.
We have a motion.
No, I'll make a motion that, town manager working with the assessor draft a, brief letter to Simon's Rock / Bard, indicating that the town will use them as a taxable property for fiscal 27, and with details to follow.
Do you have a second?
Maybe just use it and say C.
I don't remember actually what I said.
To have the town manager work for the assessor to send Simon's Rock, Barrett College, that the town views the property as taxable for FY 27 with details to follow.
We will be seeking taxes.
That's much different than what Eric said, because that means that we're gonna tax them for
Yeah.
FY 27, and Emily's already told us we can't do that.
Okay, so let's.
Yeah,
Okay, so,
So let's make it more open-ended then.
Just
That-
use it
that
as
we-
taxable.
I think that maybe we would say that, I'm not good at the motion stuff, right? So we would say that we would view the property as eligible for taxation at some point during fiscal 27.
Much more palatable.
Yeah, I will second that with the discussion and the question basically just, I mean, this right now is a letter without teeth and we're giving ourselves the space to develop teeth
Correct.
during
That's how I took
27.
it.
just so we don't want any teeth in this. No, I'm serious.
No, I know, I'm just apologizing for starting that
Well,
before.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
I think my point, Garfield, is if in fact we don't have the legal basis right now to do this totally, we don't have the cards, we don't have a good estimate of what the property's worth. So I think it's just saying to them, this is what we're considering doing sometime in FY 27, that I can live with. But to say we're gonna do it starting July 1st,
No.
yeah,
Agree.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, the technical point, as I understand it, is that if we don't send this letter, then we cannot do anything for fiscal 27.
and there's no guarantee we are, but at least this gives us the doors
Right, so
open.
it's a free option.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
it's
no, I
not
don't have
expensive.
a problem. I just like the word seeking taxes upcoming.
Did I get a second?
You got a second, yes, that was.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay. We are now at the point of closing the joint meeting, the select board and planning board. You don't have to, we're not kicking you out. Although Pedro suggested we charge you for seats from now on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a discussion and vote to open the warrant for the special town meeting to be held on June 29th, 2026. Set the date for closing the warrant to accept citizens petitions to June 5th. Liz, do you have a
Yeah,
plan?
so we would need to, we have a citizen petition to call a special town meeting. And it has to be done within 45 days of when the petition was accepted by the town clerk. So June 29th is available. I checked it with the schools. It is available for 6 p.m. We currently only have one article filed for citizen petition. But it's being proposed that the citizen petition time window for, if you call the special town meeting on the 29th, that we have a time window for other citizen petitions to be filed between tomorrow at 8:30 and Friday at 4 p.m. And then the joint meeting would occur because of the special town meeting in the charter, in the bylaws requires 14 days of the warrant being posted. That means that we have to have it posted by Friday, June 12th. So, which is next Friday. And so, it doesn't give the select board much time to review any petitioned articles, or even if the select board considers placing an article on the warrant, which we can have discussion on potential of that. So I am proposing Tuesday, June 9th, which I did survey the finance committee. And their availability is confirmed for Tuesday, June 9th at 6 p.m. for a joint meeting to review the warrant, the draft warrant. So then we would finalize it on June 9th, so then I can have it be attested and then posted by the 12th.
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Do I have a motion?
So, let me ask a question on that. Am I making multiple motions, or are we gonna?
Just one motion.
If you, the motion can be to call the town meeting and then also to call the citizen petition time frame. So open and closure of it.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the special town meeting for 6 p.m. on Monday, June 29th, 2026 at Monument Mountain Regional High School. I open citizen petition time as of June 2nd at 8:30 a.m. and close time on Friday, June 5th, 2026 at 4 p.m.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
So, on June 9th, I will have any of the warrant articles available for both boards to review, and so you can make a motion to place, okay?
Are we doing live or Zoom?
Live.
Live,
Person.
yeah.
It'll be hybrid, it'll be both.
Yeah,
No, I-
yeah,
live.
hybrid, but
Well, we'll
Sure.
be
this room.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
prefer it, yeah.
Oh, 9th, yeah, alright, sorry.
Next is to confirm Malcolm Fick's appointment as an alternate member to the BRPC. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to confirm Malcolm Fick's appointment as an alternate to the Berkshire Planning Commission. Sorry.
Yeah, closing up.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Citizen speak time. John, go right ahead.
Last time I appeared before this board, if my memory is correct, was on the evening of April 27th, when my complaint against the procedure at the February 9th select board meeting was on the agenda. At the end of that meeting, at the end of that agenda item discussion, Steve, you went up to 3 board members who were sitting to hear the issue. And you handed them some paper. I asked 3 days later. And an email message to the town clerk. To get a copy of whatever it was you were distributing to the select board. And I didn't get an answer back from her until a few days ago. With the actual text of the 3 or 4 documents that apparently you submitted to them. Now, I'm not privy to how you communicate internally with your town manager. But I am privy to my concerns as a citizen that a more detailed response was appropriate than what I got over 5 weeks later. So you guys need to sort that out between yourselves. But this is not a trivial point. It is tied to the issues I attempted to bring up in my March 17th complaint. It's tied to, by extension, to the Great Barrington Trust Policy. And there's not time to go into that now, and this is not the time for you and me to have a back and forth on it. But I want to say, having reflected on this over the last few weeks, that I consider the whole process by which you attempted to deal with my March 17 complaint to be extremely flawed, extremely unfair, in violation explicitly of at least 1, perhaps 2 Great Barrington bylaws, in violation of basic courtesy, if not of law, just of courtesy, and in violation of elementary logic. I have written you all a letter that copied to you just a couple hours before this meeting. The gist of what I just said, and there will be more. I feel at this point in my relationship with this select board, like, if you, with your employee, the town manager,
John, your 3 minutes is up.
we're operating a business in town, I wouldn't want to do business with you anymore. But I feel like we're in a bad marriage, and there isn't really any alternative. I can't do business with another select board. So we're gonna have to learn, because I'm not gonna disappear on you.
John, your time is
We're
up.
gonna have to learn.
John, your time is
You
up.
know,
Your time is up.
and it's a challenge for us both.
James, go ahead, state your name and address for the record.
James Guardzone, 84 North Plain Road. I want to say it was great to hear that the slowing of traffic is a priority. Hopefully it'll be town-wide. You know, Michelle LeBaron has complained about Division Street speeds. We've had collisions on Route 41 and Division Street. We have Prosperity Way coming, so we have kids probably walking to Old Maid Park or across to Housatonic. So just in general, we just need slowing traffic the entire town, not in just 2 areas. Second, I agree with better synergies regarding across all committees. I joined most of the committees. I can tell you there are disparities or just confusion between one committee versus another when things come across. Like Steve said, you know, the Mahawi project, when it goes from the planning board to the select board, things change or just information is not followed through. Which leads me to enforcement, back to the Mahawi project. You know, we have the developer with some complaints, but nobody's really enforcing it. The residents complain and they make their complaints to different, different towns, offices, and nothing's being done. And now we're talking about potentially changing Mahawi Street from a 2-way to 1-way, but we knew this when the project was started because it was just too much traffic and the parking lot should have been on the main street, not on Mahawi, but here we are, and it's probably going to be up for another discussion. Simon's Rock, thanks Phil for bringing that up. That's a great idea, bringing that hopefully into our tax rolls. You know, we did it with the fairgrounds and we won litigation, so maybe we can do the same thing with Simon's Rock. Hopefully we get better representation.
I've always keep on saying about Sears High School. I'm still waiting for the Mojitas to keep their promises, maybe take their tax benefit away. Phil, you had mentioned that a couple of months ago. I'm still waiting for that. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, James. Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead. Chuck.
Do you want me up there?
No, you can speak loud enough that everyone will hear.
Thank you.
Mm.
Michelle LeBaron, 70 Division Street. I wasn't going to say anything about the speed on Division Street, but because James just brought it up, I'm going to. It's out of control on Division Street. I was almost rear-ended coming out of my driveway on Sunday. You know, we have a hill on one side at 70 Division Street, we have two hills. I pulled out of the driveway and a car was flying up past the Guthrie Center, up the hill, almost rear-ended me. Select Board member Orenstein talks about traffic on Alford Road coming from another community. We're getting it from another state. A lot of cars from New York State are coming down Division Street and flooring it. And also, we have two mechanical signs on Division Street saying the bridge is open. The bridge has been open for several weeks. Why in the heck are those signs still there? One of the signs, by the way, flashes red and blue. Why not put that on Gilmore Avenue or East Street, so when cars are going down, you got these lights going? We also have a neighbor on our street that put up a huge fence that talk about developers, giving them a little leeway. This was a mother talking about protecting her children, had to go through several meetings to put up a fence to protect her children because of the traffic I just got done talking about. Another issue is the monitoring of the Division Street Bridge, the infamous sinkhole. You may want to take a look at the other side of the bridge because there's a noticeable dip starting with cracking. It would go to figure if there was a fault on one side, maybe due to poor construction or whatever, you may want to look at the on and off ramp on the other side because major trucks are still going over that bridge. And I walked down because my husband saw it and I even noticed some cars are beginning to avoid it. And it's starting to go like this and it's starting to crack. So I'm giving you the heads up, you may want to monitor that and take a look at it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Select Board time, Bill.
All good.
Doctor,
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
also media time. Eileen, nothing? Welcome, Eileen. Good to see you in person. By unanimous consent, we are adjourned.